betrayed WCW!
What in the hell is he doing here? Monday Night Raw! Monday Nitro! He is broken!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass! Brett Screw Brett. The new world order, brother! Let's get this! We are at war!
WCW Monday Nitro, also October 2nd of the year 2000.
So I was wrong last week when I said Russo was gone. He's back.
He's on the show.
But I actually think this may for real be the last one. I'm pretty sure.
Pinky swear?
I don't remember,
I can
but
only hope.
all I know is, you know what this show was?
Horrible.
It was horrible,
It was boring.
but it was boring.
It was boringly horrible.
It was horrible and boring.
It certainly was not good, so yeah.
And I have yelled at people for saying, oh, but Brian, the retro Nitros are better than Raw today because at least they're funny and exciting.
No.
And I've argued that many times, okay? But I do have to admit this week that this was boring.
Yep.
I can't say it was worse. Like, I didn't want to quit my job when the show was over, like I did the last few weeks. But man, what a chore to get through such a boring show.
It was a slog.
You know what's boring about it? The wrestling.
Well,
Okay.
you're not wrong. Last week, at least, we had that. Was it Lance Storm and Sting last week?
Yes.
Yes.
That was a good match
Yes,
in the
it
middle
was.
of that awful, awful show. They recapped that awful, awful show. Goldberg arrives. Filthy Animals come out for a promo.
Oh, my God.
Conan has the duck. He implies that Disco has been violating the duck and announces we're going to have a ladder match for the
Hold
duck.
on. Not just that he violated the duck. There was a hole in the bottom of the duck, you see. And then Conan got a hold of the duck, and they had to enlarge the hole. So Conan was getting Disco sloppy seconds from a plastic duck.
I'm presuming he didn't actually violate the duck. I mean, I could be wrong.
That's what he implied.
But yes, this show opened up with Conan
Why are we discussing this?
challenging Disco to a ladder match with a duck with a hole in its bowels hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah.
A bigger hole.
You want this duck, he says. Come get it. We'll hang it for a ladder match. So, okay. Simple, dumb, but simple enough. If Disco wins the ladder match, he gets his duck, right?
Right.
Okay. I thought that it was Conan versus Disco in a ladder match.
Right.
See,
For a duck.
yeah.
Am I wrong? Is that not what you would think when you
That's what
saw
I
this?
thought.
It did take me a long time to figure out what the match was.
A guy comes out. A dude comes out to team with the Disco Inferno because it's a tag team ladder match for possession of a duck.
Yes.
I'm like, who is this bald guy?
Right.
Is that Luke Gallows? Who is that?
That was not Luke Gallows.
I'm just flabbergasted. And then I discover it's Alex Wright.
He's back.
Last time we saw him, he was Berlin.
Right.
Now he's Alex Wright again, but he shaved his head.
Still bald, yeah.
Where has he been? Why is he here? What is going on?
Apparently he's been
Can
working out.
one announcer tell us why Alex Wright is randomly on Nitro again in a duck match?
Well, they said, hey, it's Alex Wright, and he comes out, and a graphic comes up on the screen reading Boogie Nights with a K.
Right.
And Tony Schiavone says, is that their name, the Boogie Nights?
And somebody has the temerity to say, maybe it's a play on, that movie.
So,
Were they the Boogie Nights before this?
No, they weren't a team before this.
yeah, they were because we had Tony
Yeah.
the Dan-
Oh, that's
dancing
right.
dildos line.
Yeah,
They were the
were. I'm
dancing
sorry.
dildos. That's what they were.
Okay.
That's right.
I don't think that was their official name. But
I think it was. I remember this.
Came out a lot.
Now they're the Boogie Nights. That makes sense.
by the way, Conan stole something from Stephanie's closet. He had cow print all over his
did?
gear. This,
Well, speaking of cows, they were in the Cow Palace, and so it's in San Francisco, started on the West Coast, early start time. And when this show began, there was nobody there. This arena was pitch black. They did light it up in the second hour, but there's maybe 8 people in this building.
You know what's funny is we've been burying this concept, match, return of Alex Wright, etc. for a good 3 minutes here. But to be fair, for whatever reason, these fans were on their feet for this match.
Both of them.
They were chanting Disco Duck.
There was a duck on the line.
These guys were working so hard in a ladder match for a duck.
Fans gave a duck about this match.
Now, the one reason, Brian, I knew this would not possibly be Conan versus Disco in a singles match, because can you imagine Conan by himself working a ladder match?
Well,
So what they did...
we're going to see The Fiend. No, what is it? Kevin Owens and
Seth Rollins.
Shane McMahon in a ladder match.
That's honestly, Shane may be more mobile.
Well,
than
yeah.
Conan, but
And I realize that Kevin Owens has had many ladder matches, but his opponent was Generico,
that's also
not Shane McMahon.
I see your point.
Yes.
But the reason I bring that up is once the match begins, it's all Conan setting the ladder up and Ray falling on it over and over again.
They were killing themselves for a duck.
Yeah. Now, again, let's repeat this. The stip is whoever gets the duck wins. Disco wants his duck returned, so if he gets the duck, he wins, right? And he gets his duck. So Conan climbs the ladder. Conan gets the duck. And so Disco beats him up and takes the duck and leaves anyway. Okay, I should have seen this coming. This is on me. If I had thought about this for half a second, I should have figured this out beforehand. But I didn't. I didn't put even a half second of thought into this. So when Disco lost and then just took his duck anyway,
Yes.
rage. Just rage.
You need to just stop that.
I do. It's on me.
What did you expect on a Vince Russo show where they're
Again.
doing a ladder match for a duck?
Again, see, if you turn your brain off, stuff like this catches you off guard and it makes you angry. If you turn your brain on just enough to think, of course, Disco's going to lose because of the duck anyway, then you're ready for it when it comes. You can brace yourself for the dumbness.
Now, I will say that, like that Shawn Michaels ladder match with Razor Ramon
What?
at WrestleMania 10, they only had one ladder. And this ladder
And that's where the similarities stop.
was thrashed. And when they set this ladder up, and the two things like this that keep the ladder from getting too wide,
Supports, yes.
they're thrashed. And Conan has to climb this ladder. I was like, he ain't getting up there. But he climbed that ladder and he got the duck. It was a miracle. This was better than I expected.
David Flair arrives with
The second vintner.
a person he has kidnapped.
The second vintner.
Oh, I see.
This was exactly what happened on SmackDown. There's a guy wearing a hood that is being dragged in the building against his will.
I see. If the payoff had been a guy who looked like David Flair, that would have been better than
Oh, my Lord. If only they'd seen this angle.
So David Flair has kidnapped somebody and is dragging them around and brought them into the building. We then go to the announcers, who then explain Vince Russo claims he is the WCW World Champion. Shouldn't you have led with that? Shouldn't that have been the start of the
Open
show?
up the show with that, yeah.
I think it was all about Thunder.
There was a Thunder in between. Perhaps Thunder was heavily into the whole who was champion thing. So we go to Vince on video reading a prepared statement.
I didn't write it down this week.
What was he looking at?
I don't know.
He had an earpiece in and he was looking off screen.
He was not looking at the camera?
No.
So last week he did suffer a concussion when he hit that guardrail.
Yes.
Like they tried to pad it and everything like that, but he did suffer a major concussion. It was not his first concussion. I thought when I watched this that somebody was reading him lines into his earpiece because he couldn't remember anything. But then he came out without the earpiece and managed to do all of his promo. So I don't know what he was looking at or why he had an earpiece in. But he read his prepared statement.
Maybe somebody had cards off camera.
Well, the first thing he explains is that he is not an athlete
True.
and has no business being in the ring.
True.
Why then did he put himself into a world title match?
Because it was his childhood dream and he knew he could do it.
And he's a writer and he can do such things.
It's I mean, we knew it was dumb. He is pointing out, it's like he realized his story was dumb. He may as well have said, my story was dumb. He's going to relinquish his title and book Jeff Jarrett versus Scott Steiner in a match tonight for the vacant title. He begins to threaten to kick Goldberg's ass, so Goldberg comes out into the arena. Now, I would have sworn this Russo thing was pre-taped, but they begin to interact with each other, exchanging horrible dialogue.
These were not pleasantries
No.
being exchanged.
So Russo comes out in a Pope-mobile, Goldberg kills all the security guys, and then Russo says, before you lay a hand on them, listen to me. And I thought, it's way too late. And Scott Hudson says, it's too late. So they still go back and forth for a while. These hated enemies who just have a chat. So Russo says, I could fire you, but that would be too easy. So I'm going to force you to recreate your streak. And if you lose, I'll fire you.
He's got to make his own life more difficult. It would be too
Firing
easy.
you would be too easy.
Yes.
So if you lose, I'll fire you.
Yes. Yes.
Firing you would be too easy.
Yes, Vinny.
So if you lose, I'll fire you. And on top of that, if you do make it to 176-0 again, then you get a title shot.
Right.
Why is he doing this?
Do you know what?
How concussed was he?
Okay, the storyline is stupid, all right? But you know what's more infuriating about it is we have seen WCW do two things. They did a Goldberg streak where every week he would beat one guy, and eventually the fans started counting, and it became organic and real and the most over thing they ever did. Mm-hmm. Then they tried it again with Sid, where he would beat multiple men during each show.
Yes.
So the streak was total BS, and nobody cared about it, and it was a disaster.
Right.
When Russo said, you need to get to 176 again, I already knew what he was going to do. And I knew he hadn't learned a thing from Sid. And sure enough, he's 3-0 by the end of this show.
Mm. So Goldberg is about to get into the Pope Mobile when Mang attacks Goldberg and lays him out, and Russo says this is opponent number one. After the break, we're in Russo's office, where Mang is being Mang, grunting, sweating, shouting, doing a kata, and Russo says, go eat Goldberg for lunch, and Mang storms off. Russo says, I am leaving. Mike Sanders, I am putting you in charge. Mike Sanders is happy, and he leaves, and Russo then puts Borash in charge of Sanders, and then slaps him and calls him a stooge.
Why did he put Borash in charge?
I don't know.
Okay.
Chuck Zito joins the announce desk to plug Oz.
Did he say anything? Did he do commentary for the match?
Yeah.
He plugged his show a little bit.
Okay.
They would ask him a question, and he'd be like, yes. Mm-hmm. AWOL versus Reno in a hardcore match. Did I mention, Brian, that I am over hardcore wrestling?
Just a lame match. But you know what? The fans went crazy for some of the stupid spots they did. Like, Vito ran down, hit Reno with a kendo stick, AWOL chokeslams him through a table, and the place leaps to their feet cheering.
This was better than the hardcore match on Raw.
Yeah.
They put the trash can upside down and kicked the guy. They did some stuff here.
So AWOL is announced as the new hardcore champion.
Yeah, the title's vacant.
They give him the belt, and then Sanders comes out, and he rules that due to interference in a no disqualification hardcore match, AWOL is disqualified, and Reno is the new hardcore champion. Did you get infuriated then? I sure did.
It was out of my system by this point.
And then they announced later that Reno and AWOL are going to rematch at the pay-per-view.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, and you wonder why nobody is buying your stupid shows.
So we go to Pamela. Now, before we talk about what she said and how she said it.
The camera?
She's standing there alone. There's no one else on screen.
Was she in a washing machine?
There's a backdrop behind her. The cameraman is shooting her by running from all the way to her right, all the way over to her left, back and forth like he has to pee. Just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So what she says is that she has big news from the WCW commissioner, the Cat. The Cat has watched the tape, apparently. He determined Booker T left that cage before Vince Russo did. Now, logically, then you would say, okay, then Booker T is still champ. Mm-hmm. Logically. What the Cat has decided is that it will be, instead of Steiner versus Jarrett for the vacant title, it will be Booker versus Sting for the vacant title. That the Cat, by his own admission, just determined Booker should not have lost in the first place.
Here's a serious question. Where's Shat?
Don't know.
He wasn't even on this show.
Yeah.
Is it that hard to show up one day a week and do your job as commissioner?
I don't know.
Was there like a kata test at his dojo? What could he have possibly been doing that he wasn't here for Nitro?
I don't know. So it's done, and we can all move on, but Pam has to get the last word in. And she says, talk about controversy. Stay tuned.
Well, she's right. Hey, listen, she sucks, but she's so much better now than she was on week 1.
Low praise.
Yes.
David is backstage torturing his kidnap victim.
His gimp.
Yeah.
Was it Filthy Tom?
Well, no, as it turns out.
That's true. We did find out who it was.
You can tell the guy's got huge arms.
He was much larger than David Flair, the
Yes.
man tormenting him. Shane Douglas cuts a promo. I will cut to the chase. He and Tori Wilson want to go straight to the top. And so they want Mike Awesome.
Before that, they want to go straight to the top, and so they challenge Conan to a match of the pay-per-view.
I don't know.
What?
I don't know.
Then he wants Mike Awesome for tonight.
So,
And Tori cuts a terrible heel promo.
so that 70s guy, Mike Awesome, comes out for a match with Shane Douglas. Mike Awesome is now working in the leisure suit.
Yeah, like before, he just wore like the pants and the shoes, but didn't have to wear the jacket.
Yeah.
This week, he's got to wear this stupid jacket. Like, what is special about Mike Awesome?
He's huge.
He's a big guy, he's got a very good physique, and he can fly.
Yep.
So, let's put him in an outfit where he can't fly, and you can't see his physique, and all he has left is he's big, he may as well be AWOL.
Indeed. Indeed. So, remember earlier when I got mad at the one thing, and then didn't get mad at the other thing? Turns out I still had some rage left in me. So they're doing this match. And Tori Wilson jumps in the apron with her back to the hard camera, and she tears open her shirt to expose her breasts to Mike Awesome and distract him. And Mike Awesome, his eyes grow big. He's got franchise up on his shoulders, but he drops him because he's so distracted by this nudity.
He's got a love bus that he's needing to...
That's true. He may have had that in mind.
Phil.
That it's a natural
Yes.
pair there. So that's all fine.
That wasn't a natural pair, by the way.
You're right. But that's all fine. But then they cut to a camera angle to show that Tori Wilson wasn't topless.
No, she's just wearing a bikini top.
He was distracted by non-nudity.
Well,
He was distracted by a topped woman.
well, you know, she showed some cleavage.
Oh, we never seen that on Nitro before.
Well, you know, he was distracted, Vinny. He's got a love bus. That's his gimmick.
So, Mike Awesome is distracted by this fully clothed woman, and Shane hits his finish and wins. As if that's not enough, Tigress now has to attack Tori for some reason. Conan attacks Shane. A horrendous segment.
You know, Vinny, if you were in the supermarket and you were shopping for honey or whatever, and you turn around
Where's this going?
and there's Tori Wilson,
Right.
fully clothed, but only wearing a bra, I promise you would be distracted.
I probably wouldn't drop the honey.
Maybe you would, Vinny.
Maybe you'd pick up a honey.
No,
No, I wouldn't. We all agree on that
let's
one.
not get crazy.
I apologize.
No need to exaggerate now. Come on. So, Jarrett and Steiner, they're upset that they're not in the title match. They want Mike Sanders to put them in the title match because he is in charge, which begs the question, if he is in charge, why is Cat booking matches? Because none of this ever makes any sense.
I just love when Scott Steiner's got this steel pipe, and he is threatening to violate Mike Sanders with it. This is Scott Steiner.
Yes.
Mike Sanders just stands there and he no-sells it. Like, that takes some balls.
You're not wrong.
If that guy was threatening me with a pipe, I would sell it so big, just in case. You know what I mean?
I do.
Because at some point, if I'm whatever, you know that he's going to get his hands on you.
Sure.
Okay. Well, the Sanders.
Might not be now.
Very green. He's like, oh, you're going to put this pipe on my ass? Whatever. Nash shows up as coach.
And he calms everyone down. Goldberg is putting his gear on.
Can I talk about Ming's promo?
Let me get there. Nash gives Sanders a pep talk, sends him in to talk to the cat, and Boris is locked out of the room. Before Ming's promo, there's a Ming video package. Now, you're not seeing Ming on the show for a while. He showed up earlier in the show, laid out Goldberg. He's a big, scary monster. We saw him in Russo's office. He's shouting and snarling and spitting. He's a big, scary monster. We get a video package that is just Ming killing people. He's like a Halloween monster in this one. He's a goddamn werewolf.
Yes.
So all they've done with Ming is tell you that he is a savage.
Yes.
And then they decide, he should cut a promo.
Well, you see, Vinny. On the show, he is a wild, crazy, savage, unhinged, wild beast. But this is a shoot.
All that other stuff is fake and phony.
So, Uli Uli Fafita comes on the screen.
Yes.
And in not quite perfect English.
I believe for the very first sentence he read, or he announced, after 4 or 5 listens, the best I got out of it was, Towns, icing, and cutback is part of business.
No, Vinny. What he said, downsizing happens to all companies and all businesses.
Downsizing and
Let's
cutback.
just stop right there, okay?
Makes sense.
That's what Ming said.
Yeah.
Ming, okay?
The monster Ming.
I've never heard him speak English in my life. I wasn't even sure that he could speak English. That's how good he is at being Ming. Ming says, downsizing happens to all companies.
See, I heard Towns icing. But you
And
said
all
downsizing.
businesses.
Okay.
And in order for me to keep my job, in order for me to continue wrestling here in World Championship Wrestling, I need to take out Goldberg. Goldberg, he says, you must die.
Die.
So that I may live. Like, what? I gotta watch that again. Meng's here talking about downsizing. Goldberg must die so that he may live.
Goldberg must
and
die.
continue his professional grappling career in the
cease
World
to be.
Championship Wrestling League.
He must shuffle off this
What
mortal coil.
is this? I mean, I loved it, but it's ridiculous.
This contradicted its own show like 5 times.
Reminds me of that time that Barbarian cut a promo in English about how we will eat your lunch. I don't remember the rest of it. That was the funniest line. But he spoke English. I was like, what? Why are you speaking English?
Mike Sanders talks about ratings.
He says, I've negotiated an awesome match. It will turn this place around. Spoiler, the match does not turn this place around.
He says their catchphrase is so-and-so is SOL, and you know what that means. This is a terrible catchphrase.
Mm-hmm. Now listen, as much as I laughed and joked and made fun of Ming's wacky promo, at the end of the day, inside the ring, he's still Ming.
That's for sure.
And inside the ring, Goldberg is still Goldberg. And so I thought, you know what? Goldberg and Ming,
Yes.
they may have a slobber knock.
I seem to recall they did before.
They have had battles before.
Yeah.
I was very excited.
Yes.
And then
I think we
the
all
bell
were.
rang.
It went a minute.
No, it didn't.
40 seconds.
At most.
I stand corrected. It went less than a minute. Goldberg hit his spear and jackhammer and won. And somehow, in these 40 seconds, at least on Raw, when they mentioned Rulon Gardner, even when Anglesey was better, everyone put him over, made him sound like a hero. Scott Hudson buried Rulon Gardner's match for being boring.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, it was the most boring wrestling match in the history of the planet. But still, it was history.
I think WWE was trying to sign him too, weren't
Yeah.
they?
If I recall correctly, they did like a 9-minute clinch, and
The time expired.
no, it was Carell lost his grip for an instant, and that's why he lost.
Yeah.
That's what it was. It was boring.
So Goldberg has won. He's 1-0 on his streak. Fine. Then Chronic attacks Goldberg.
Everyone is baffled. Why is Chronic attacking Goldberg? Weren't they baby faces last week? The announcers say the same thing. They conclude they must have sold their souls to Russo.
Yeah.
Excellent storytelling.
So Mike Sanders tells somebody, I've already forgotten who, but he announces that instead of one match for the title, he has booked a tag team match.
This is his idea, by the way.
So, yeah. Keep in mind, this started with Jarrett and Steiner fighting each other for the title. Now it's a tag team match with Booker and Jarrett as partners, and Steiner and Sting as partners. Mm-hmm. Those two teams will fight, and the winning team will then fight each other for the world title.
Yes.
Okay. We'll get to the match itself. I will just say for now, I'll get to the match itself later. David has his hostage backstage. He literally waterboards this person.
Yeah.
They've got a hood over their head. David teases them with water and then pours a bucket over their head, and they're screaming and wailing. Okay.
Yeah, the best part of it is,
No.
when we get to the reveal later,
Yeah.
the person
Went through all this.
put up with all of this
For who knows how long.
just so he could later beat up David Flair.
We don't know how long this person has been kidnapped.
We don't.
It may be a week.
We don't know what other torture.
No, we don't know what David did to him before this. But this person went through it all.
I mean, at least they could do a storyline where, he switched out with the person when David left the room or something like that. No.
Tagged in.
That would be too much hard work. Like, this person frees the hostage, but then puts his outfit on so he can go beat up David.
So the match, again, I repeat, Booker T and his partner Jeff Jarrett versus Scott Steiner and his partner Sting.
I
So
was so lost.
everyone was lost. The ref was lost. The announcers were lost. The wrestlers were lost. No one could remember who was anybody's partner. They're all just fighting with each other. Sting is fighting both bad guys and fighting Booker. The bad guys are fighting each other and Sting and Booker. No one has any idea what the hell is going on. And it goes for a long-ass time. Finally, the ref gets bumped. Jarrett hits Sting with a guitar.
He tried to hit Booker. Booker moved. He hit Sting.
Mm-hmm. So,
Yes, Jarrett tried to hit his own partner to prevent his team from winning the match where if they won, they would face each other for the title.
yeah. So he hits
That happened.
Sting. So then he covers Sting. Scott Steiner, who is Sting's partner, runs interference and prevents Booker T from breaking up the pin. So Jarrett wins, and I think at the very end, Scott Steiner realized what he had done and felt dumb.
Well, I hope so.
This was... How to screw up something that could have been done so easy.
I was so confused, okay, that when this match was over, I wrote, and I quote, "I guess it is Scott Steiner versus Sting in the main event." I was exactly wrong.
You were. It wasn't until you had even pointed this out, I didn't even think about the fact that Jarrett had broken a guitar over his own partner's head.
Yes.
This show.
No, he broke the guitar over Sting's head.
You tried.
But he had been swinging at his own partner.
Yes. I need a break, man.
We got to power through this.
We're only halfway through this show.
No.
Helix Skipper comes out. He calls himself the 100 and under kilo Canadian champion. He buries Americans. All you stupid Americans, he says, so everyone will hate him now. In San Francisco. He shows the clip of Kevin Nash calling Beetlejuice Helix. This made Helix Skipper very angry. So Nash and the Natural Born Thrillers come out. Nash apologizes to Beetlejuice for comparing him to Helix. Sanders then says, "You and I, Helix Skipper, are about to have a Cruiserweight Championship match."
By the way, the Whack Pack was on Raw last week, and Beetlejuice was on WCW.
No, Whack was on Nitro. They did the bikini
They were all
contest.
here on Nitro.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So Sanders says, "I am going to add some stipulations to this Cruiserweight Championship match. First of all, even though Team Canada is not out here, I'm going to ban them." Thanks, Mike. You banned non-existent people. Then he announces, in this match, before you can pin someone, you must powerbomb them.
Yes. Helix must powerbomb Kevin Nash.
Well,
I'd like to see that.
then Sanders says, also, it is a handicap match, and my partner is Kevin Nash. And so we got Mike Sanders and Kevin Nash versus Helix Skipper in a handicap must hit a powerbomb before you win Cruiserweight Championship match. Nash is also doing a commentary and a promo in the middle of his match.
Nash is out there, jeans, baseball cap,
Hand in pocket.
doing comedy over the mic, talking about how Helix is a fake Canadian. I'm like, okay, I got it. You're too cool for school. Would you just get the hell out of here,
Move
you
to
idiot?
Canada because he makes $30,000 a year, but that's a millionaire in Canada.
It's like, well, why don't you move to Canada then?
Helix makes his comeback, but nobody cares because he said to their face that all the fans are stupid Americans. Nash erases him, power bombs him, Sanders wins. Only at this point did I actually realize this was a cruiserweight title match.
Mike Sanders, the new cruiserweight champion, the new 200 kilos and under champion, or whatever the hell it is, 100 kilos. Whoop-dee-doo, I wrote. Whoop-dee-doo. Spelled it out.
Goldberg is leaving. The Red Rooster says, no, you've got another match. So Goldberg goes back in.
Shouldn't it be like Borash telling him that since he's the stooge?
Should have been, yeah.
Nash says, I'm going to shower.
Why?
Much like Victoria, why? He, I guess, goes in the shower. He closes the door behind him. At this point, the Natural Born Thrillers, a half dozen jacked up giant men, get attacked by Lance Storm and retired Hacksaw Duggan.
No, he's not retired.
He had been.
He was.
Okay.
He's back now.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah.
Regardless, these two men beat up all the Natural Born Thrillers by themselves.
They were the biggest baby faces. Hacksaw's being Hacksaw. He's beating up these thrillers after Helix got beaten 2-on-1 in a totally unfair match. These guys are supposed to be the top heels. Or at least three
Are
of the
they?
top heels.
Are you sure?
No, they're supposed to be heels. I know that much.
Goldberg versus the Heresies. He immediately spears one and pins him with a spear.
Yep.
Okay, 2-0, fine. Oh no. Because that is only the first pin in this handicap match. He must jackhammer and pin the other one to get 2 pins here. Added to his 1 pin earlier, he's up to 3-0 already. You morons. You goddamn morons.
There's nothing easier than just getting a giant charismatic monster and having him not lose. Russo can't even do that right. He's turning him into Sid, who, by the way, should be back soon.
Oh, fun.
The natural born thrillers can't find Nash. David Flair is dragging his kidnapped victim around. They announce via a large sheet of paper with many, many words printed on it that Jeff Jarrett versus Booker T for the vacant World Heavyweight title will now be a 49ers match. Because much like the famous 49ers, you must hunt for gold.
Look at his face.
He's baffled.
He's so confused.
Well, let me tell you about it, Rob. There's a ring in each corner on the top of the post. There's a box.
There's 4 posts.
Yes.
Just to be clear.
In 3 of those boxes, there is a, quote, weapon. And in the 4th box is the title.
Mm-hmm. Got it?
Whoever gets the title wins.
This is for the World Heavyweight Championship, held by such luminaries as Harley Race, Ric Flair, Sting, Luger, Vader, in a box match.
Mark Madden, the heel commentator, who theoretically should be on Russo's side, outright asks, is this a scavenger hunt or a world title match? Even he realizes how
the
dumb
answer
this
is it is a scavenger hunt for the World Championship. Can you bring a metal detector to the ring?
There is a commercial for Halloween Havoc. And they haven't announced any matches or a card yet, so it's just all random clips and scary narration. At one point, the narrator says, WCW will shock you again, and you will see something you cannot imagine until you see it live.
It's every week.
Sounds like Nitro.
Can only imagine what was on that show.
Oh, yeah.
David Flair brings his handcuffed victim into the ring. The victim can't stand. He's whimpering, helpless.
Emaciated, I'm sure.
No doubt deprived of all his supplements.
Yeah.
So David Flair takes off his handcuffs and turns around, and the guy stands right up, sells nothing, yanks off his hood. It's Buff Bagwell.
Let's stop for a second.
Please.
The reason that David took off the Gimp's handcuffs is because David says, this man has ruined my life, and I'm going to embarrass him tonight. I'm going to embarrass him the way that he embarrassed me.
Oh.
So the agreement was, I'll take the handcuffs off, and you swear to everyone that you're the father. So David feels that it will be a grave embarrassment to Buff Bagwell to realize, or to admit to the people that he impregnated Stacy Keibler.
Yeah. The shame. The indignity.
So he takes off the handcuffs, the guy takes off the mask, it's Bagwell, he beats the hell out of David. So, I don't even know why I'm bothering, but I got 1,000 questions, okay?
They're all good ones.
Did David know who he'd kidnapped? That's question number one.
I assume, based on his trip last week, that this is the guy whose address he found in the phone book.
So we presume that he knew it's Bagwell.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he drove to Bagwell's neighbor's house.
Yes.
And then Bagwell's house.
And went to but Marcus wasn't home.
So are we supposed to believe that Buff did impregnate Stacy?
Or at least he was banging her in the limo.
What are we supposed to... This is the dumbest... This is another one. Okay? There's going to be a marriage. The fiancé runs off, reveals that someone else has impregnated her. How hard is this? This is what they came up with?
And are we to believe that David overpowered
That is a great question,
Buff
Greg.
Bagwell?
How did David kidnap him in the first
and
place?
put him in
Well,
a hood
that
and
would have been the
cuffs?
best video. Did he put a net over the door, and so when Bagwell went to open the door, a net fell on him?
Did he-
I like more that he dug a giant hole and covered it with leaves.
Yeah, sticks.
Maybe he darted him, tranquilizer.
These are all great questions.
It would all have been better than what they did here.
And
The capture of Buff Bagwell.
we did... the
I need some vignettes.
Yeah, it's like he should have put something in one of his protein shakes.
They should have done Predator with David Flair hunting Marcus Bagwell. And again, we did ask this before, but it bears repeating. If Buff was so fine that he could stand up and take the hood off as soon as those handcuffs were off, why did he let David Flair drag him all over who knows where for who knows how long?
Well, to be fair, he was handcuffed.
He was handcuffed, but he was fine.
He was fine.
I believe hooded, handcuffed Buff Bagwell would beat David Flair's ass.
It's a decent chance.
Did no flight attendant raise a hand when they got in the plane to come to San Francisco?
He drove, Craig.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
From Atlanta.
Temerity.
Yes.
From Marietta.
What were they in? Oh, they were in San Francisco. It's a long drive.
Yeah, I'll say.
It's a long drive. What are you nodding at? What's Rob doing over here?
So I'm really befuddled by the fact
You don't say.
Well, yeah, no.
Let's just stop right there.
Yeah, yes.
That's not about you. It's about this show.
No, I get that. I get that.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is I'm kind of befuddled that you guys are more. This bothers you more than the fact that at the beginning of the show, Disco was in a fight over
A duck.
that he was presumably fucking.
Yes, both of them were.
Well, that's what they claim.
Yeah, right.
I think it's just rumors.
Who's he fighting?
David Flair.
No.
Conan.
Thank you.
It's
That
tag match.
Conan then cut a hole in because to imply that he was also fucking the duck,
This happened.
I turned his mic on for this.
and thus is then bigger. Implies that he is a much more endowed than Disco,
Yes. That was
and
the
thus
joke.
ruining the duck.
Where are we
for
going
Disco.
here?
Why would Disco be so badly want to get this duck back that has been ruined?
30 minutes and he finally asked a question about the first match?
Well, maybe he had a question earlier. I don't know.
I don't know, Rob. I have no idea.
Rob, there's a lot of questions that all of us have.
It is. He's got a point.
Well, of course he's got
Why
a point,
did
but
Disco
why are we
want
asking
the
this
duck
35 minutes into the review? Get out of here, Rob. You kidding me?
There's no way we can even address. We can't even ask all the questions about the show, let alone answer them.
I mean, are we sure that Bagwell didn't impregnate the duck?
No.
Okay. Well, as long as we don't have answers to anything.
So
Duck Bagwell?
We go to commercial.
Fluff.
We go to commercial.
It's the name of the duck.
Yeah.
Fluff Bagwell.
Thank you.
We go to commercial. We come back and we just see like a graphic or whatever, but you can hear a very exasperated Tony Schiavone say, "They are still trying to get the boxes." We see Buff walking backstage, and that's it.
Yeah, no explanation.
Booker T versus Jeff Jarrett in a 49ers match for the World Heavyweight title.
This was awesome because the first,
It was?
It was?
No. The first bump they take into a corner, one of the boxes falls off the post.
I didn't even catch that.
It's great.
So they do some stuff. Jarrett opens a box. It has a blow-up doll inside.
Ha ha ha. What a weapon.
He throws her outside.
Where was Bagwell?
Hudson had some line about how I didn't know Kimberly was here tonight. And Schiavone just about throws up.
No, he said, I didn't know Kimberly had merch. That was his line.
That's funnier, actually. Booker T gets a box. Inside the box is a framed photograph of Scott Hall.
You thought you were mad earlier today when he opened that box and it was a picture of Scott Hall. The first words I wrote, is this company dead yet? That's almost where I quit.
The only reason I did not is because 19 years later, I actually remembered that one of these boxes had a picture of Scott Hall. It was stupid enough to imprint itself in my memory. Box number 3.
And by the way, they did use the picture as a weapon.
They broke it over Jarrett's head and moved
They
on.
did not use the blow-up doll as a weapon.
No. Box number 3 contained a coal miner's glove. An actual
Weapon.
old school wrestling dangerous weapon. A big, loaded metal glove. You put it on your hand, you punch people with it, and they die.
This was a welding glove.
Thank you, Craig.
I'm just when they did the coal miners glove matches in Portland, there was like steel on the outside of the
You
knuckles
think
and
they
stuff.
thought far enough ahead to get a coal miner's glove?
It would have been nice.
Point being, they get this glove. They hit each other like 5 times with it. And then they throw the glove away and start doing sleepers.
Yeah.
They suddenly had, I swear to God, like a 12-minute wrestling match in the middle of this. And by the way, it's Jeff Jarrett versus Booker T. So close your eyes and imagine the match.
Mm-hmm.
Jarrett puts on holds. Booker makes a comeback. Jarrett cuts him off. He puts him in more holds. They lay on the mat. Tony Schiavone is screaming about all of the drama that we're seeing here. I'm like, where? The drama is whether I can stay awake for another 10 minutes.
So Jarrett decides he's going to hit Booker T with a guitar. He goes under the ring, he grabs the guitar, but he can't get it out. It's stuck on something.
Someone's too strong.
Mark Madden, who I'll repeat to you is the heel announcer, says, quote, "This is dumb. Jeff should just get the box with the belt."
Yeah.
You're right, Mark. This is dumb. He should get the box with the belt. So Jarrett can't get the guitar from under the ring. He gives up. He goes to the top rope. When out from under the ring comes Beetlejuice. He climbs up in the apron. He punches Jeff Jarrett in the balls.
Can you imagine? Let's take an untrained Beetlejuice, and his spot is to give Jeff Jarrett repeated low blows.
Yeah.
Like right to the scrotum.
Yeah, he used it like a speed bag.
Yes. So, after Booker T can't beat Jeff Jarrett, but Beetlejuice can,
Yes.
because Booker's the worst champion in the history of the world. Booker, I simply wrote, Booker knocks Jeff Jarrett off the top rope and gets the box and wins. That's what I wrote.
That's not what happened.
What actually happened is so much worse because it's WCW and anything that can go wrong will. It's Murphy's Law as a wrestling promotion. Booker yanks the box down. The box disintegrates.
Yes.
Yes.
like
It's made of
see the
particle
videos
board.
of
Paper
atom bomb
mache.
tests where things just fade away, houses disappear. That's happened to this box. The World Championship belt falls to Earth, where someone retrieves it and hands it to Booker. And now Booker's the worst champ in the world.
Again.
This show. And then
There's more.
they can't
leave well enough alone, as they say.
My notes got confused, so we're going to go back in time briefly. But the end of the show is Scott Steiner destroys Booker T. They can't even give him a moment in the sun to celebrate. And then the close of the show, they can't even let Booker get the heat on him because the close of the show is Steiner putting the recliner on Beetlejuice.
Yes.
Booker T was the, at best, fourth biggest star in this match.
He was the setup man for Beetlejuice.
He was. Now, somehow my notes got out of order, so I do want to add, there was a point in this show when... we didn't talk about this. My notes got out of order, but I talked about it anyway. It was when Team Canada beat the Thrillers. I don't know what the hell happened. This paragraph suddenly is in the bottom of my notes again. That's on me. So never mind. We talked about that.
Sweet. Thanks, Vinny.
Yeah.
Show's over.
Show's over.
Can you at least do your finishes report in order?
I will do my best.
All right. Here we go.
That's fucking weird. That's never happened before.
You probably wrote something that you wanted to write for later and then went back and wrote above it and then forgot.
That's probably it.
I've done that.
All right. The finishes show on... The finishes... I can't do it, Brian. I can't do my finishes report. The finishes on this show were... win in a tag team ladder match for a fucking duck, where the losers got the fucking duck anyway. Pin in a hardcore match after interference that then turns into a DQ in a hardcore match. Pin after a man is distracted by a woman who has her top on. Clean pin. Pin after guitar shot in a tag match where nobody could even keep track of what the teams were. Cruiserweight title changes hands in a handicap must hit a powerbomb before you win match. 2 pins in a 1-on-2 handicap match that counts as 2 wins. And finally, a win in a scavenger hunt disguised as a wrestling match when the worst champion of all time needs interference from a little person to win.
I don't know why it is, but whenever you are reading your finishes report on Nitro, and all of a sudden you say, clean pin,
Record scratch.
I'm like,
Did that
that's what I want to know about. Like, what happened? He couldn't think of one screw job? There was nobody left to run in?
All the weapons were used.
What happened where he was like right in thinking and went, you know what? I'm just going to have a clean pin. What the hell? That fascinates me.
got lazy that day?
More than anything else.
Do you want to know what it was?
What was it?
It was Goldberg beating Ming.
Okay. Well, I guess that's all right. See, he could only somewhat screw up Goldberg. You know what I'm saying?
He couldn't even screw up Goldberg right.
No, I mean, it's just like, you know, he screwed him up, but he was still doing some things right. That's how hard it is to screw up something like Goldberg. Anyway.
We are at war.
Cool.
It was going fine until the end there, man.
Yeah. Just like Nitro.
In some ways. So Nitro, everyone.
Let me tell you all about this Nitro. Brisbane, Australia. This was, in fact, the week that Hoovy lost his mind.
Oh!
That's right.
They were at a hotel, and Hoovy...
Lost his mind. That's a good way to put it.
So, I'm not throwing out any accusations here.
Sure.
I'm just telling you what people
got a lawyer on speed dial
believe. No, this is just what people believe happened. Okay? So apparently there was a big thing in Australia at the time of smoking PCP-laced cigarettes.
Oh, my.
Okay? And I guess Hoovy told people, I thought it was just a cigarette. I didn't know that it was laced with PCP. Well, whatever happened, happened. And he goes in the hotel, and he goes absolutely nuts, and he tears off all of his clothes, and he runs around naked, and he proclaims that he is God. Someone sees this and presumes it's not normal behavior.
Sure.
They call the authorities.
Friendly for Hoovy, isn't it?
The cops show up. Apparently, this was like one of those deals where, you know, the little guy, all messed up, has superhuman strength.
PCP will do that to you.
He's like beating up a bunch of these cops.
Naked.
And the cops then get out the spray.
Pepper spray.
And apparently, they actually did a spot, a legit spot, where the cop goes to spray the pepper spray, but Hoovy ducks and he sprays another officer.
Aha!
Yes. So they finally get him tied up or whatever. They take him out, goes to the police station. I guess everything goes back to normal. And they say, listen, we're not going to charge you We arrested you. We're not going to charge you, but we need to deport you.
Fair.
All right, fine. So he flies back to the States, and shortly after getting back to the States, he's fired. But it's WCW. And so they announce Salvatore Guerrero has been fired. Because I guess all Mexicans look the same.
Sure.
Eddie gets word. He freaks out. He calls Chavo. My God, what did you do? Why did you get fired? Chavo has to explain, I'm not fired. What's going on here? And that was the end of Hoovy.
This company died.
Yeah. This was the week there was talk of a sale.
I had forgotten the Salvador Guerrero announcement. Oh, my God.
And this was a much better show than usual.
Here's the thing. When we closed last week's review, we noted it was the end of the Russo shows, so it had to get better. And one of us said, no, I've heard it doesn't get better for a while. Wrong!
Well, I didn't say that. Maybe I did. But it was
listen,
it was definitely better
the
this
point
week.
is, it is a night and day. It's a billion times
Yes,
better.
but it actually gets good here in a few months.
Okay, it's not good.
It's
It's fine.
I watch Hell in a Cell.
It's better. This is better
And this
than
was
that.
the first show. I guess I watched Raw, but I still have Hell in a Cell on my mind, and I watched the show. And until the main event, I thought, fine, I'm fine.
Yes.
I can make it to the end.
This is a breathable show.
But then they did the main event, and I was just filled with fury.
I also remembered that this Australian tour, because it's a 2-week tour, so 2 Nitros and 2 Thunders they did down there.
Yes.
And even at the time, I don't think we knew the Russo era was a disaster. I don't think we didn't know how near the end was, but we at the time knew these Australian shows were way better than what they had been doing. The crowd is huge.
Yeah.
They're into everything. Everyone comes off like a star. They should have, from this point forward, they should have never gone home. They should have become World Australian Wrestling.
Yes,
I know that makes no sense.
This was the period where there were all the rumors that they were going to be sold, and there was talk of them being sold to Eric. There was talk of them being sold to Vince. And apparently Russo figured, well, if it's sold to either of these people, I'm out. Mm-hmm. And so he did not go to Australia. And so they had 4 non-Russo shows. And so far, the first one is much better.
They spent a month in Australia?
No, they did 2 weeks.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
So Jeff Jarrett arrives at the building dressed as 1980s Sting.
So it wasn't perfect.
All teal and orange. Hey, Jeff Jarrett impersonating Sting is much better than Jeff Jarrett being the chosen one for the 400th show in a row.
That's true, Vinny, but we watch the 1980s Sting, and this was the worst impersonation of a wrestler I've ever seen.
I mean, he's a bad Sting.
Hoovy in the hotel, I'm not sure, could have accurately recreated the Sting character if you would have put makeup on him while he was running around naked and proclaiming himself to be God.
We get clips of beautiful Australian scenery and koala bears and kangaroos. And then we get a match. A wrestling match to open a show. Helix Skipper versus Rey Mysterio Jr. in front of a great big crowd with enough time to have a wrestling match that just has a wrestling match finish and everyone going crazy. I was in heaven, and it wasn't even that good.
Now, Helix Skipper is very green, but Rey Mysterio is very great.
That's true.
And so Rey did everything he could. There was one horrible botch where Helix tried to do a rope walk into a Hurricane Rana, but instead he did a Rikishi sit-down splash, and Rey went the wrong way and almost tore out both of his knees and
Rey
was killed.
was almost torn in half by this.
Yes. So the other positives were Stevie Ray is just randomly doing commentary this week.
Yes.
And he's not great, but he's funny.
I disagree.
So I'm cool with that. And Tigress did commentary, and she was fine. She was better than most. I'd rather have her running SmackDown than Cole.
Sure. Actually, that's fine. So, yes, all I could think watching that, and I realized it was 5 years later, maybe he practiced a lot, but Helix Skipper did this rope walk Rana thing and nearly cut Rey in half, and he almost nearly died. All I could think was, this dude tried this move on a cage.
He didn't try it on a cage. He performed it.
Performed on a cage. I would have never jumped again. I was have 1 foot on the ground at all times the rest of my life after this move. So they're doing this match, and Tigress is on commentary when randomly she's attacked by Tori Wilson. We're watching Tori Wilson and Tigress fight. They cut back to the ring, and you just see bodies flying on the apron in the ring and the ropes. I went back and watched this like frame by frame because they cut to it in the middle. I think Ray was in the apron yelling at Tigress, and Helix did like the springboard clothesline to hit him.
I see.
So they both just fall down randomly. And then Helix wins with the worst move ever, which here they are calling the play of the week.
It's more devastating than play of the day.
Well, that's true, I guess. You put your leg on top of the guy's head and you grab his arm, you flip him over, and he does the somersault and you pin him.
Yeah.
He lands on your leg like it's a pillow.
Yeah. It's a horrible move.
It's dumb.
It's not Helix's fault. Lots of guys have used it. It sucks.
You can only hit it every 7 days, though. It's play of the week.
Right. Yeah. The Boogie Nights are backstage, and with the franchise, I guess they're having a conversation about Tori Wilson, but they're drowned out by the ring announcer. Like the PA
The audio was
announcer.
horrible on the show.
Something was badly messed
It
up.
was terrible.
The audio was horrible, and there were a lot of things where what should have been a 10-second segment took 3 seconds instead. So I had no idea what was happening. We see the Natural Born Thrillers walking. After the break, we get a Natural Born Thrillers promo. Mike Sanders has started to dress up and looks a billion times better. He's got slacks, he's got a nice shirt, he's got cool sunglasses. He was out there before in like a ratty t-shirt and gym shorts, looking like a below average guy at the
he
gym.
finally got paid.
I guess that's it. So Sanders is the new commissioner now. I don't know how that happened. I don't care.
Russo assigned him. He says he cannot fail.
All right. So his first act as commissioner is to book a down underwear match between Tori Wilson and Tigress. In case you are confused by this, he explains they will start in, I think he said camo gear, which isn't quite true, but whatever. And whoever is stripped to their underwear first loses.
I just thought they had to wrestle in down underwear.
Like goose down?
Yeah.
It's Australia, it'd be very warm. So Sanders is promising people will see the end of Goldberg Street when the cat interrupts. They bleep the word ass on the show. I don't know if that's an Australian thing or what. So Cat tries to play nice and says we can all work together. You've got the Natural Born Thrillers. I'll bring out the Misfits in action. We'll have a dance contest. Sanders falls for this. All right, dumb heel, that's fine. A dance contest starts, and then very quickly, the good guys attack them and beat them up, and Cat called him either a dickhead or a shithead. I'll bleed. We go backstage for, I swear to God, a 3-second shot of the Boogie Nights standing 3 inches away from mirrors practicing their dance moves.
The dancing dildos dance.
I laughed, and I laughed, and I laughed. I went back and watched it, and I laughed, and I laughed. I gifted it, I laughed, and I laughed. I could watch these two morons dance in front of these mirrors, thinking they're all cool, for a long time. Stacy Keibler arrives at the building. We've got a Jarrett Sting skit. I don't know who. I assume the gimmick was that Jarrett hired some guy to go along with his act. But there's a guy, he's got a lanyard, he's trying to find Sting, he looks into the camera and asks, "Where's the Stinger?" And Jarrett comes in dressed as Sting. He says, "I'm Sting, I'm the one, the Sting when people cared about him, but I've lost my heart, I've lost my smile, I'm all finished." He says something to the ladies in catering, and says, "No, you're right, I got a match," and he leaves.
That was dumb.
Me or him?
Mostly him.
Okay. Mark?
Okay. Allow me.
Right.
Okay.
So the show is not perfect.
Right.
It's the dancing dildos against Jindrak and O'Hare. And they work over Disco. And they cut off Jindrak. I guess the dildos are heels. Is that right?
Sure.
Debatable.
No, because Sanders,
yeah, they're definitely heels.
I don't know what's going on.
All 4 of these guys may be heels.
I don't know. But anyway, the point of this is they do this match. Ref takes a bump. O'Hare's sent outside. Second ref.
The ref takes a great bump.
Yes.
Charles Robinson.
Second ref runs in. Disco hits a chart buster. Pins Jindrak. They become the new tag team champions. This building goes crazy. They're jumping up and down. They're popping like crazy. They're screaming. Disco's holding up the belts. They're champions. Sanders comes out and he says, "Ref's knocked out. It's unfair. I run a tight ship. You two need to be disqualified." So then everybody is just confused. The announcers don't know if the match is over. They don't know if it's title change. They don't know if it's DQ. They don't know what's going on. And then finally, Sanders says, "Restart the match." So it wasn't even a DQ like you originally said. Mm-hmm. We start the match. Thrillers got the pin. I was like, can't you just give the fans like a happy ending? Do you have to ruin it? What was wrong with giving Disco and Alex Wright the tag titles? They just got together as a team. The fans were totally into it. Why did you have to do this stupid stuff?
My favorite part of this match is Disco got the hot tag. He's running wild, and Tony proclaims, "I can't believe it. Disco is looking great."
I thought this match, up till the fake finish, was the best thing on Nitro in forever and ever and ever. Like, since spring, probably, at least, if there's anything good then even. It's a really, really fun tag match. Alex Wright looks great. Disco looks great. I was watching this match. If you had been watching this match in 2000, everyone watching thought Sean O'Haire is going to be a giant star.
Yep.
And I'm watching it back in 2019. Even though I know the answer, I am still trying to figure out how Sean O'Haire was not a giant star.
Both of them had a ton of potential.
He looked so awesome here. Even though he's the greenest guy you ever saw. He just looks like a giant pile of money. And it didn't happen. It's so weird. The crowd's into everything. It's a great... in the end, the Boogie Nights did make the babyface comeback, and they got the win. Charles Robinson took an awesome bump for a Sean O'Haire clothesline. This was such a win. And then there's just all the mess at the end that let all the air out of the balloon.
So depressing.
It was.
And it also goes to show that, like, Disco and... I mean, Alex Wright was really good, but, like, he's not one of the best workers in the world. Jindrak and O'Haire, they're green. I mean, you just let four guys go in there in WCW in 2000 and let them have a wrestling match, and lo and behold, you can actually get a wrestling match that's good. When you don't mess it up with all this stupidity. Stacy walking. Goldberg arrives. Australia footage.
Stacy walks for, I swear to God, 2 steps.
Jarrett with a Stinger MasterCard. I'm like, that was 1, 2, 3, 4 segments in a row that were like 2 seconds and pointless.
The MasterCard thing at the end, you know how WWE always has the awkward pause at the end of every promo?
Mm-hmm. They had it here.
This is the opposite of that. He finishes, he starts to smile, and they cut away before his corners of his mouth even go up. Madden then interviews Stacy in the ring. So Stacy comes out in her dress, and they've got the prosthetic belly to indicate she's pregnant. And Stevie Ray says she's starting to show. Tony Schiavone, thousands of miles from his wife and family, mutters, "She can show me anything she wants." And Stevie Ray, the gentleman, "Tony, please!" I laughed and I laughed and I laughed. So Madden's first question is, Stacy Keibler, who's the father of your baby? And before she can react, Stevie Ray barks, "Yeah, suckers got snow." This is the best Nitro in 2000. Not even close.
So earlier we had the interrogation of Mick Foley and Deborah. Now we've got Mark Madden and Stacy. Who is the bigger bastard is the question.
Well,
Mark Madden says,
Mark's bigger.
"Is there a reason you won't tell us who the dad is? Is it because you don't remember, or you were inebriated the night it happened? Is it because you've been with so many men you just don't remember?" You thought that you could call her into the ring, ask her this line of questioning, and she was just going to tell you who the daddy is? Well, anyway, it didn't work. And David runs out.
She starts to leave. David comes out. Before David comes out, Stacy says she has a message for David, which is that he's confused. He's blaming people who are innocent. She made a mistake. She's sorry. She still loves him. So then David comes out and they start talking. She tells him what he saw on that tape was innocent flirting. Well, now I really want to see this tape. Because David saw it and thought she got pregnant doing it. So I want to know what gray area.
Well, David's a crazy idiot.
That's true. So David starts talking about how he wants Stacy to have a blood test to see how the father is. And Madden explained it doesn't work that way. When suddenly, you're talking about missing shows. That 70s crowbar comes out.
wait a second. You skipped over the part where David reaches in his pocket and pulls out a needle. He's going to do the blood test in the middle of the ring.
I didn't even know.
We have to confirm that Stacy is Stacy, I guess. Part of this pregnancy angle.
So I called him that as a joke. I didn't know why Crowbar had this like velour suit on.
Yeah.
But yes, the gimmick now is that he and Mike Awesome are friends and apparently a tag team. So David beats up Crowbar, Mike Awesome saves, and that's the end of all that. Tigress goes for a walk. Tori goes for a walk. Pam interviews Jarrett Sting. Her question is, she talks about how he's imitating Sting and says, "You're not fooling anyone, you bloke." Does she think that's an insult? No one smartened her up to what bloke means. It's like, fella. So Jarrett promises he will be in the ring signing autographs for $15 a pop.
I guess you couldn't call him the C word.
Well, no,
Oh, that's
Greg.
an English thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Never mind.
I don't know what the Aussie term they would use. Sam Greco, shown ringside. K1 fighter, kickboxing champion. Tigress versus Tori Wilson in the down underwear match.
This match was appalling.
Yeah.
It's so horrible. And they just have a horrible match. And then Tori ends up in her underwear. And it's so horrible I could not possibly care less. Shane runs down, covers Tori. He goes to franchise her ass. Conan makes the save. There will be no ass franchising on this show, according to Conan. Mr. Peel the Potatoes. And that's the segment.
All right, then.
That's what happened.
Okay. Vito meets with Mike Sanders. They bicker a bit, and Vito agrees to any match Sanders wants. Jarrett comes out for his promo. He has an introduction that he forces David Pinzer to read. And he gets to the end, and Pinzer starts to leave, and Jarrett stops him and says, "Do the last part." And Pinzer looks at his notes and looks up and says, "Give it up for the Stinger, folks." And he leaves. That made me laugh. So Jarrett, as Sting, promises to retire after Halloween Havoc after Jarrett beats his ass. But until then, he's going to cash in while he has the chance. He's going to sign autographs here in this ring.
This show is not perfect.
So Sting repels from the ceiling behind him.
The real Sting.
The real Sting.
Comes down to face Jeff Jarrett.
As Sting.
Fake Sting.
Fake Sting. Because they're going to wrestle the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they have really a match. Most matches in 2019 don't go as long as this brawl did. I will say, Jarrett did such a great job of doing a horrible Stinger splash. Which I think was intentional.
What's going on with his child?
I thought it was the cat.
No, it's definitely the child.
Very
She's
sad
very
baby.
upset about something. Probably hungry.
So,
Probably wants some boobs.
Vinny, carry on.
So Jarrett suplexes Sting through a table.
Now Vinny's lost.
I'm just confused.
Dude, all you need to know is
Sting is the Fiend. Sting knows how's the table.
Sting puts this guy in a sharpshooter. Jarrett furiously taps. Dude's running to break it up. And I'm like, this is why you're getting a 0.15 buy rate. I'm supposed to care about this match after this?
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
Jarrett is backstage selling. Steiner runs up and says, "What happened?" Jarrett says, "Stinger jumped me." Steiner says, "I'll take care of him."
Man, what a crew.
So Steiner does not watch the show.
Poor Jeff Jarrett. I mean, he's hurting.
He's with
His
Contagion.
friend comes up. His friend wants to know what happened. Jarrett says, "A guy jumped me." And Scott Steiner, his friend, goes, "Well, I'm going to go beat his ass." Two guys that like each other here on the show.
Friends. After some very needless promos, we get a tag match. Kevin Nash and Mike Sanders versus Booker T and the Cat.
It's not as good as that Benoit tag on the other show.
It was not.
I think it was head-to-head, actually.
It was very basic. The highlight was the announcers never having any idea who the legal man on either team was.
Sanders looked terrible in this match. I mean, I guess they must think that he's an awesome promo because he's a terrible worker. That makes him above average. That's the only thing that I can figure.
So Cat pins him with a feliner. So then the Cat, the babyface, gets in Tyson Fury's face. No, sorry, Sam Greco's face. But we can't focus on that because Mike Sanders attacks the Cat and Scott Steiner attacks Booker. Steiner vows to kick Booker's ass at Halloween Havoc, and then he calls out Sting, and then nothing happens. Pamela Paulshock asks David what he was thinking out there trying to draw Stacy's blood. David challenges Mike Austin to a hardcore match. Goldberg is warming up. Pam interviews Vito.
Oh, this guy.
It was fine.
It was awesome.
It was my biggest chance in history. My chance to take out the man.
Yeah.
I sweat no man. Goldberg and I are friends.
I don't fear nobody. I got no wishes for the Goldberg. He's just the guy across the ring tonight.
We got business in the ring tonight. May the best man win.
We're going to bust heads and then shake hands afterwards. Vito rules, everyone. And then we got Vito versus Goldberg, which was exactly what it should have been. A great 30-second match. Vito kicked him once or twice.
They literally did one high spot.
Goldberg speared him and jackhammer and pinned him.
On 2/3.
Perfect. If they had just left it here, this would have been so fine. But no. Goldberg starts to leave. Johnny the Bull attacks Vito. Goldberg sees this, goes back, spears Johnny, jackhammers him, pins him. The ref counts 3. This also counts as the win streak. Then Chronic comes out.
What happened here?
Chronic
I
comes
will be
out.
happy to explain when he's done.
And nothing happens.
Well, I don't know why Chronic came out.
Okay.
I presume both of them will be beaten next week. But I guess, basically, the storyline is he has to break 176. Okay?
And they don't want to wait 176 shows.
Well, I mean, at the rate they're going, they're due like a couple of house shows a week.
Get it by Christmas.
It would have been 2003 before he broke 176. So now they got to figure out, we got to be like 10 guys on each show.
But that didn't happen here. Chronic came out.
He beat 2 guys.
Their music was playing.
I know, but he beat Vito and Johnny.
They went to commercial and they moved on from Chronic.
I know, he'll probably beat Chronic, both of them, on Thunder for 2 more wins. He's just got to beat as many guys as he can every single show now.
Mike Awesome versus David Flair. This is better than most hardcore matches because they wrestled a lot and then would do a hardcore spot once in a while. Great. Crowd loved Awesome. He looked great here. And he won with a giant top rope splash and the Awesome Bomb.
Yeah.
This is a very fun show up to this point. So at some point, a Mercedes had pulled up. And Ric Flair was inside it, but he waited to get out until this exact moment.
He thought maybe David would win.
I guess. Wanted to give him a fighting chance. Ric Flair gets out. He's got his haircuts, it's all spiky. And he's wearing like a Hawaiian shirt. Casual Ric Flair is the weirdest thing ever. It's bizarre. He comes out. Awesome's going to powerbomb David through a table. Flair talks him out of it. He's had enough. Awesome realizes, you know what? He has had enough. And he sets him down. He gives Flair the peace sign, and he leaves. So Flair is trying to get David to talk to him. David slaps him, tells him to stay away. They go to the back.
Flair goes, "Don't do it, Awesome. You got the win. You got the victory. He's had enough. You've got kids." Awesome goes, "Right." And he left.
He did.
Flair talked some sense into the guy.
He appealed to
That's
his
what
logic.
happened.
And Awesome saw the error of his ways. Major Guns is begging Kwee Wee for a new outfit, but Lance kidnaps her. We have a Team Canada promo where Lance buries Australians. Apparently there was some gimmick with the gymnastics equipment at the Olympics in Australia that year.
Yes.
And they do the Canadian anthem, and the filthy animals interrupt.
Lance faces Conan.
In a wrestling match.
Yeah.
Actually, it wasn't bad.
At all.
Until the end. Lance works him over, misses the big splash, Conan comeback, Lance selling great for everything. And then they go to the corner, and they just stand there for a second. Time stands still. And then they do like a corner to corner, and finally Shane McMahon, or Shane Douglas.
It would have been no more weird.
Yeah, franchise shows up. And
Shane gets in the ring.
somebody missed a cue somewhere.
I'd like to think so.
Because Shane jumps in the ring right in front of the referee, and the referee sees him and like has to turn his back.
Mm-hmm.
And then Shane hits Conan and flees.
With a chain.
Yes.
With a chain.
With a chain. Lance covers Conan, but Conan kicks out.
Yes.
And then Lance gives him a dragon screw and puts him in the cloverleaf for the clean win.
Mm-hmm.
What was this?
Here I wrote, what the hell was that?
We can't leave good enough alone and just do a match.
Conan looked like he dropped like 30 pounds.
He did. He
He
was
was moving a lot better.
He did, and he was still huffing and puffing by the end of this.
That's true.
He was also wearing a Vince Carter jersey, which is notable because it's 2019. Vince Carter is still a professional basketball player. That's ridiculous. Sting goes for a walk. Steiner does some curls. And then this main event.
This was where, listen, the show was better. It wasn't perfect. This was where it fell off the cliff.
This is a 2000 WCW match.
It was like, did Russo just fly in? And like, give me that script.
Russo was watching the show and picked up his phone frantically. He called, no. You gotta
I
do
got
this.
a new main event.
There's too many clean finishes on the show. So Steiner versus Sting. Jeff Jarrett comes out to be the surprise special ref. Brian's already done. So the bell rings, and Sting can see where this is going. He just starts fighting both guys.
He immediately just begins running wild on two men.
Yes.
He's beaten up Steiner. He's beating up Jarrett. He's ping-ponging them around. I'm like, what in God's name? And then finally, after beating up special referee Jeff Jarrett, finally Steiner cuts him off, and he goes for a pin, and Jarrett drops down and does a fast count, but then stops his count when Sting kicks out. I was like, I'm done. I can't take this anymore. I just can't take it anymore.
Well, it got worse. So yes, at least Steiner was yelling him to count faster. They tried that. So a second ref runs out. Steiner kills that guy. Steiner's using a pipe. All this is in there. So they double team Sting for a while. They beat him up outside the ring. They hit him with a pipe. And here's what's supposed to happen. They'll throw Sting into the ring. Steiner will make a cover. Jarrett will try to count. But the cat will pull Jarrett out of the ring. That's what's supposed to happen. But the cat is very, very late.
Very.
So Steiner makes a cover. And then Jeff Jarrett, the heel referee, has to count slow.
Yes. Classic.
Amazing. Breathtaking. Just astonishing. So eventually, Cat attacks Jarrett, and now Booker's the referee, and Booker and Steiner are doing stuff, and Booker kicks Steiner, Sting has a death drop, and Sting wins. Okay, whatever. I don't care. That was a bad main event, Brian. I will concede to that point.
You know, the only thing that I could figure, I actually don't have the attendance, but, the only thing that I can figure is, like, there were the building must have been big. And so everybody mistimed how long it would take to run down the aisle.
Yeah.
Because everybody was late on the show.
If only they could have rehearsed something.
It's like one guy after another. Shat's looking down going, I can make that, half
200-yard run.
15 seconds. All right, here I go. Ah, now Jeff Jarrett's counting backwards. He's going to have to count so slow. Are you ready? That main event sucked. I don't know if I made it clear enough. That main event sucked. It was stupid. It sucked. Everything about it was dumb. I hated it. Here you go.
The finishes on this show were clean pin.
What?
Yeah.
It's caught off guard.
Clean pin that is reversed into a double pin after an attack by several men.
Oh, the clean pin was reversed. I should have known. Go ahead.
I wrote the Ray and Helix was a clean pin. I wrote the play of the week.
Oh, yeah.
It was.
All right. Clean pin that is reversed into a double pin after attack by several men. Victory in a down underwear match. Clean pin. Pin in a match that was never announced or agreed to but still counts. Pin in a hardcore match. Johnny the Bull. Win after submission, or win via submission after a guy interferes, but it doesn't seem to be very effective. And then pin in a match after all sorts of shenanigans with refs who are biased against one guy or the other.
That may have been a clean pin record.
For Nitro.
Yeah.
All over this place.
Because a couple of those, I don't think you mentioned clean pin, even though basically, like the hardcore match, you can have a clean pin.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, you didn't mention
the
it.
down underwear match was a clean victory.
Yeah, it was clean. All right. We're out of time, everybody. Hey.
WCW Monday Nitro, also October 16th of the year 2000.
Do you remember last week when we watched that show from Australia and we said, my God, they need to just stay in Australia. What a crowd they've got. Oh, the booking is better. The wrestling is better. The crowd is better. They couldn't even stay there for 2 weeks without having a horrible show. This show sucked.
It's Russo's gone, but yet there was some really, really stupid stuff on this. But all in all, it was just really boring.
No, it started boring and ended horrible.
I had 4 cups of coffee to stay awake watching
The
this.
last half hour or so of the show, and especially the main event, dear God, can this place die already? I got too much wrestling to watch. I need to start getting rid of some shows. I want to watch NWA Power and AEW Dark. Instead, I watched 4 hours of this crap today, 2 of which was this stupid show.
You better watch that AEW Dark. Whew.
God almighty, this show.
We open with a rematch between the Boogie Knights and Mark Jindrak and Sean O'Hare. So the Knights cut a promo.
Was Alex Wright cutting a promo in English or German?
It was German.
German.
Was it? Because I heard an English word, and then I thought that he cut the whole thing in English. I just couldn't understand him.
Got the promo in German.
Okay.
Disco then translated.
I see.
He says, the titles are on the line tonight. The natural-born thrillers are banned from ringside. and Mike Sanders cannot interfere.
What he actually said was, Mike Sanders cannot interfere because the decision will be final.
Okay.
What he was trying to say is that Mike...
So, Disco translated for Alex. Brian, please translate for Disco.
What he was trying to say is that Mike Sanders cannot come out and reverse the decision.
As commissioner.
The referee's decision was final.
I'm actually really glad you explained it.
I actually don't blame Disco, because this company is so stupid that they probably told him what to say, and he was probably baffled trying to figure out what they were talking about, and just stumbled out this comment.
So the Boogie Nights are trying to be baby faces here, but the crowd just hates Disco.
Which was funny because last week they loved him, and they went crazy when they won.
It did.
Now they hate him.
That's a different part of the country.
It's a big country. Mark Jindrak does this ridiculous leap from the mat to the top rope to do a top rope Rana, and Tony Schiavone is the only announcer who even notices. Mm-hmm. This was sick. So Alex is on the top rope when he gets a hot tag, and the announcers spend a long time debating whether or not this is fair. The ref gets kicked. Disco hits the chart buster.
Excuse me, did you say a ref bump?
I did.
Okay.
Should we keep a tally?
I've already started.
All right. Chronic attacks, as I've lost track of what side they're on now, but O'Hare hits the senton and gets the pin.
Chronic are heels.
I think so.
They've just
They're
inexplicably...
clearly heels on this show, and they were probably heels last week too, but there was never a reason.
See, the difference is, I can at least tell myself, we don't watch Thunder, so maybe they turned on Thunder. Unlike WWE Today, where the Kabuki Warriors are just heels, and I watch every show,
Yes.
and so I know there was no turn, there may have been a Chronic turn, but they are definitely heels.
So Mike Sanders and Kevin Nash and the Natural Born Thrillers are having a chat, and Nash sends them to go do something. I don't even know what he told them to
Let me handle this, okay?
do. His end is the only thing that matters.
Nash tells them to go tell Shat that he's done with this. He's done with Sting. And Nash makes sure to tell Sanders, I'm hung over. Mm-hmm. I don't want to work tonight.
Fair.
Okay. So Goldberg arrives, and then Sanders meets with Shat. And the first thing Sanders says is, I want Sting versus Nash tonight. Shat says, I'll make it, and I'll make it a lumberjack match. So the first thing I think is, did Kevin Nash not say, I don't want to work tonight?
Those were his exact words.
Okay. So then the announcers are like, didn't Nash say he didn't want to work tonight?
They are also correct.
Mm-hmm. Did I miss a segment on the show where this was explained? Because I don't remember seeing it.
No.
Maybe Sanders is trying to undermine Kevin Nash, and we just don't know it.
Well, it would have
But
been.
Nash never even got mad about being booked in a match.
That's the problem with that theory, because that's what I thought was happening.
Okay.
But we see Nash later; he just doesn't care. So they just forgot it in the space of one commercial break.
Yikes.
Also, this show was censored beyond belief.
Right?
It was very straight.
Everyone got bleeped for everything. There were random circular gray spots in the crowd at points where I assume there were middle fingers. But
Okay,
what
the
I'm
only
guessing.
thing that I can figure is that if you recall, before the network, they had WWE Classics on Demand.
Yes.
Okay. They powerfully edited those shows.
This must have been one of those.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is because they edited Shane Douglas's music out.
Dude, there's
They had a giant blur over God only knows what. They bleeped so many interviews that I have no idea what half the people said on this show.
half of this show was silent.
Yes.
This is WCW before the talkies. They should have just had the organ music playing in the background.
And like the video was really bad too.
Well, it was because it was from
Australia.
Australia.
Gotcha.
So, with that said, Kat called them something. It got bleeped, so I don't know.
It was funnier that it got bleeped because then my mind could wander.
That's probably. Let's just leave it at that. My mind wandered.
Unnecessary censorship.
Yes. Team Canada comes out for a promo. Lance buries cricket and Australian accents. The crowd tells him he is a wanker.
They didn't bleep that.
And they not believe the crowd saying wanker. Lance had a reputation for like being overly stuffy, right? Not.
Yeah.
They ever watch Lance Storm do a double take when the Canadian anthem gets interrupted?
best.
It's the same thing every week, and it's awesome every week.
Bug eyes.
It's the
The head jerk.
a
Twice.
legit double take.
His character thinks maybe this week no one's going to interrupt that anthem.
Yeah.
And every time.
Hope springs eternal in Canada.
Yes.
So MIA interrupts, and they come out waving the American flag in Melbourne, Australia. So neither team was light. So it's Team Canada versus MIA. General Erection is not in the match, but he immediately comes running out through the crowd and attacks Lance. Why didn't they just put him in the match?
Dude, he attacks Lance right in front of the referee. It should be a clear DQ.
For a moment, because it was outside, so in my head I was thinking, well, clearly the ref's just watching the match in the ring.
No.
Then the ref jumps out on the floor and tries to separate them.
So Lance got beaten on by an extra man.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Huge Erection gets ejected. I almost said it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Wall goes for the choke slam, and Lance takes out his knee, which leads to heat on Helix, who is a heel. I was like, what is going on? He makes hot tag to Lance, who then cuts off Chavo, and they get the heat on him.
And the best part, the heel team, Hacksaw Jim Duggan yelling, "Ho!" And everybody call and response the whole time. He's just eating it up like a baby face.
Then we get the second ref bump in 2 matches.
I can't believe we're talking this much about
We're
this
2
match.
for 2. Helix bumps off the apron through a table. Major Gun throws a table in the ring. Lance drop kicks a chair into Cajun's head. Cajun kicks out.
That's not the finish.
And then Lance puts him in a crab and wins clean.
Yes. Convoluted.
Okay, here's the
You
kicker.
did a ref bump and a chair shot drop kick to the head, but the finish was a clean crab. And it's not even like he kicked out of the chair shot and then they did the crab. He kicked out of the chair shot, then Cajun cradles Lance Storm. Lance kicks out and then he does the crab.
Here's the kicker to all of this. It took less than 3 minutes.
Right.
They're just out there running as fast as they can to get all this crap in.
So we could get a shot of Sting arriving.
Shane Douglas comes out for a promo. He's bleeped.
What'd he say?
Whatever he said about Conan got bleeped. I don't know. He issued a challenge. Okay, did anyone else know what match he was challenging them to?
He was challenging them to a 2-on-1 match.
He challenged the Filthy Animals to a match, and next thing I know, I'm not making this up. This is the match that is going on in the ring. Mm-hmm. Shane Douglas by himself versus Conan and Rey Mysterio Jr. and Tigress.
Yes.
3-on-1.
They destroy him for a while.
But it's a plot.
Until he pulls out Mace and maces them, and Tori throws Tigress into the barricade, and Shane's using a chain. It's a disqualification. And the storyline is Shane set a trap for the baby faces, and they're all so dumb they fell for it.
Yeah, and then Stevie Ray in commentary goes, "Was this a setup, Tony?"
Call it a hunch.
Detective Stevie on the case.
They handcuff Conan to the ropes. Douglas grabs Ray, tombstones him in front of Conan. It was actually, I will admit, a pretty good heat angle.
The angle,
Of course, it led to Goldberg versus Douglas on this show, if I recall correctly.
no.
Who did he wrestle? Didn't he wrestle somebody in this?
Shane wrestles
Yeah.
later. We'll get to it.
Yeah.
So, speaking of things we missed, why are Chuck Palumbo and Sean Stasiak mad at each other now?
Well, I just presume Thunder.
Okay. They're bickering for some reason. Nash orders them to shake
But I
hands.
would like to know, why are Mike Awesome and Crowbar those 70 guys now?
That is a good question.
I don't even remember Crowbar as a 70s guy.
I don't. So,
The crowbar
He couldn't be
needed a-
Frobar.
Excuse me.
actually, no, Brian.
Well, I know he couldn't, but
Booker T arrives.
He could be low bar. And
not the
do everything
Fro,
really badly.
Afro, 70s, Frobar.
I know, I hear you.
Why'd I have to explain my jokes on this show?
I don't know.
Booker T arrives at the building. Rey Mysterio is loaded into an ambulance. Billy Kidman is there now. He's friends with the animals again. The Perfect Event versus Mike Awesome and Crowbar.
Dead crowd. They're deader than doornails.
Nash is on commentary, and his only purpose in life is to make himself laugh.
Yeah.
So he's just making the same jokes over and over again, overreacting to everything.
Stevie Ray says Chuck Palumbo was a top 10 wrestler in WCW. That's what he said.
So he's like, Chuck Palumbo?
Stevie's whole argument is, well, he's wrestled guys like Goldberg. It's like he got killed.
So Crowbar and Awesome is a team. Crowbar and Mike Awesome. They're basically giant, slow, clumsy young bucks. They do 7,000 moves. They do a bunch of dives. They do every finish on Earth. And eventually, Stasiak accidentally punches Palumbo, and Awesome does some stuff and pins Stasiak with a top rope splash.
That's what happened. It was not bad.
So afterwards...
But it was not good, and it was too long. It was the state of WCW in late 2000. Boring.
So Palumbo and Stasiak have another argument afterwards, and their shoving match and Kevin Nash pushing them apart was like the best physical action on the whole show.
And it got the biggest pop of anything in the match.
And it got the biggest pop. And then Nash made them hug.
Do you want to know why it got such a great reaction?
Because there's big scary dudes fighting?
No, because at least the fans knew that Perfect Event were supposed to be partners, but they were having some problems. So there was at least a story that people could wrap their heads around when they started fighting each other. Nobody has any idea why Awesome is with Crowbar, or why Awesome and Crowbar are wrestling the Perfect Event. So nobody cared.
Pamela interviews Shane Douglas, who challenged Booker T to a title match tonight. Yes.
Yeah.
And then Tori called Pam something, and I can't tell you what it was because it got bleeped.
I'll bet this did huge numbers.
I can guess.
It's a championship match here.
David Flair confronts Mike Sanders. I simply wrote, this promo is awful.
This was just classic. He says, I got a favor to ask. I want Buff Bagwell at a Halloween Havoc in a DNA match.
Yes.
Sanders says...
Yeah, I don't want to see it either.
He says, you got it. So David leaves, and...
Well, starts to leave.
Tony Schiavone says, what in the world is a DNA match?
Fair.
I mean, their idea is, we're going to do a match, and you're going to pay $29.95 or $34.95 to find out what a DNA match is.
I mean, when I hear DNA match, I think that they've
He found his sister?
He found evidence and that they're going to prove this guy was at the crime scene or something. So, somehow beating him in a match will prove he's the father. I don't know. I don't know. I didn't book it. Don't get mad at me.
I honestly don't know what the DNA match is. Should I look it up?
No, I'd rather be surprised.
We're not going to watch the pay-per-view.
Well, no, we'll see. There's 2 or 3 weeks before then. See if they explain it on the show.
All right. Well, I'm going to look it up.
All right. So Sanders tells Flair to take a seat. Queewee versus Johnny
Well,
the
it
Bull.
happens.
You better take the safe search off there. Go ahead.
I want it now. He's read it. I want to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, what is it?
No, I'm not going to read it. I'm just saying the match actually took place.
Okay. Queewee versus Johnny the Bull. Stevie Ray is on commentary. And Stevie Ray's word for...
Oh, God.
I should have just waited.
I'm not saying anything. Go ahead.
Don't you want to hear now, Vince? I know you do, because I do.
Okay. So are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Hang on. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. So the story is that David wants Bagwell to take a DNA test.
Sure.
Okay. So to get the DNA,
Right. Hold it. Hang on.
Sit down.
it's not what you think, but it is bad.
Young children, you should stop the show right now.
It is a first blood match,
Okay.
so he can collect his blood to get a DNA test done.
That's stupid.
So Stevie Ray, whenever there's a woman he does not like around, and as far as I can tell, that's all women.
Everyone, yeah.
He calls him a yak. And Paisley, he can't help but note, is the worst yak of them all.
Oh, he's in for it.
Which I thought was
I
funny.
like this guy. Is this Queewee versus Johnny the Bull?
It is.
This poor Johnny the Bull, coming back from a torn urethra, takes
Yes.
a monkey flip
Yes, Rob, he tore
in
his
the
urethra.
first spot of the match and breaks his ankle.
Yes.
Queewee pins him.
Again,
That's 2 on one night.
Yes.
and that didn't occur to me until hours later. But yes, there were 2 matches, one on each show.
I remember this now.
that ended in 20 seconds due to injuries on monkey flips.
It was a running joke for a while that
Monkey
the most
flips.
dangerous move in professional wrestling was the monkey flip.
I just thought it was funny, Brian, that Stevie called Paisley the worst yak of them all because she's his future sister-in-law.
Right.
That's true.
That's the funny part. So it's not enough that Johnny the Bull breaks his ankle on a monkey flip. Here's clips of Johnny the Bull breaking his ankle in slow-mo over and over again from multiple angles. This poor guy.
It's not as bad.
Yeah,
as,
but you know what? If I broke my ankle in a match, like, you may as well get the most out of it. You can replay that 50 times.
It's not as bad as Sid coming off the top
No.
by any means, but
No.
I don't want to see that.
It's his foot goes in the way feet are not supposed to go. He's clearly in agony. He's on agony on the stretcher being dragged out. This is no good. Cat comes out for a promo. He calls Madden a fat ass for literally no reason.
Running joke.
He calls out Sanders. Accepts a match for Halloween Havoc. So I think Sanders, but whatever. They're going back and forth. Chronic comes out. Sanders says, kick his ass.
The match at Halloween Havoc has the commissionership on the line. Yes.
So Chronic heads to the ring to kick Cat's ass when Goldberg's music hits, and Sanders runs to join them. That was funny. Goldberg ends up coming through the crowd, I think, to join Cat in the ring. Mm-hmm. So Goldberg and Chronic are cutting promos on each other. And Chronic says, we beat people up for free. And in Vegas, we can make some big money. Because we're all about breaking necks and cashing checks.
I loved when Adam Bomb says, Adam Bomb, one half of Chronic. Chronic! He says, the problem with this business is when the wrestler starts believing their own hype. I almost died.
So they go back and forth for a while. Goldberg eventually promises they are both next, and security separates everyone. Booker T goes for a walk. Sanders tells David Flair to come with him. And then we got Shane Douglas versus Booker T with Scott Steiner on commentary on this show.
Which means we heard nothing but
This
dead
show
air.
is silent. This match is just complete silence. I kept checking my speakers to make sure I not accidentally muted them.
Well, there was one line that I heard. It actually wasn't lewd. It was Scott Steiner explaining that Stevie Ray is not really Booker's brother.
Right.
Because Stevie's last name is Ray,
Yes.
and Booker's last name is T.
Right. Some logic there.
He also claimed one was from Poughkeepsie and the other was from Harlem.
Now, this match was not terrible, but I can sum up the entire match in one call from Tony Schiavone when he said, and I quote, another neck vice. We had so many neck vices in this stupid match. And I don't even know why he's working over Booker T's neck.
Steiner
I don't know what his
mentioned this.
neck has to do with anything.
Steiner is pointing out he's got a bad knee. Douglas is an idiot. He should be attacking the knee.
Yes.
The other thing Scott Steiner said,
Steiner's a college graduate.
he mentioned that here, University of Michigan. Steiner is bleeped and bleeped and bleeped and bleeped and bleeped. And finally, somebody's talking about how tough Medeja is, and they say she could beat Booker's ass or Shane Douglas's ass. I bet Steiner she could even beat your ass. And there's a pause, and Steiner chuckles and says, I gotta keep it clean.
Why start now?
So let me go through the end of this match.
I'm glad you will.
Thank
I don't
you.
want to.
So Booker makes the comeback. He goes up top. Then he changes his mind and comes down. Tori wraps a chain around Douglas's fist. Mm-hmm. Kidman runs down to stop it. Kidman is shoved into Medeja. Douglas hits the punch, but the cameras miss it, and Booker kicks out. Steiner goes after Kidman. Conan runs down to the ring. Jarrett runs down to the ring. Booker somehow hits the bookend on Douglas and pins him. Okay, I hated this with every ounce of my being, but fans went crazy. They're jumping up and down. They're cheering. They're pumping their fists in the air. And I was like, fine. I hated it, but it must have been good.
Without going back, everyone, just based on what Brian just said, just try to name everyone who got involved. And it's not like he was going any faster than it actually unfolded on TV.
No.
There was 97 people involved in all this.
And you know what? If you're gonna do this, spoiler, do it once on the show.
That's a strong point. Okay. That is a strong point. So Pam goes to interview Jarrett and Steiner and Medeja. Medeja is cutting a promo on Billy Kidman in Spanish, and she got bleeped.
It's one of the better promos on the show, actually.
It really was.
Sure it was. Steiner gets bleeped. Jarrett gets bleeped. He threatened to attack somebody with a guitar.
Well, Steiner challenged Kidman to a match and said, I'm going to crush you, and that's all I needed to see. And they delivered.
David Flair is in the ring. Ric Flair comes out, ignores him, goes to the announce desk. The match, David Flair's surprise opponent is Goldberg.
Yes.
Everyone leaps to their feet to watch the wolf slaughter this lamb. They get what they want. They get their slaughter. This was a perfect segment.
Yeah, and then Flair gets up from commentary after admitting he's fine with David getting killed by Goldberg. He starts walking towards the ring. He begins to walk up the steps, and they cut to Pamela, and we never see him again. What?
I don't know. This was not a good show.
I guess he was just there for the live crowd.
Kidman says, Steiner is not... This is what Kidman says, everybody. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Prior to Kidman versus Steiner, this little twerp says, Steiner is not as big and bad. I'm not as big and bad as he is. But I'm one tough little bastard. They go to the ring.
Should also add that Conan accepted Shane's challenge and Jarrett's challenge, although at the time I was not sure which was for tonight and which was for Halloween Havoc.
And Kidman also noted that he was in the Filthy Animals now.
They're back.
Said they were tight as Pamela's top.
Yes.
He said.
Scott Steiner beat the ass out of his ass.
Okay.
Just ruined him, pummeled him, ruined him, and then submitted him.
It's Kidman if you're not.
That was the match.
It was a WCW Saturday Night Squash.
Kidman is supposed to be the babyface. Do I have this right?
Yeah. I believe so.
Okay, he's the babyface.
Seeking revenge while out here.
Steiner's the heel.
Yes.
Okay, so the babyface messed with the heel's woman.
Yes.
The heel vowed revenge. The babyface talked a bunch of crap and then got mutilated?
Yes.
That's what happened.
Exactly how it went.
Okay.
Now, I do want to note that even in the slaughter, we learned that not even Big Papa Pump can powerbomb Kidman.
That's right. True.
That made me laugh. Steiner hit 97 moves in a row, tried one powerbomb, got face-bustered, and hit 97 more moves in a row and won.
Yeah. Loved it.
It was awesome.
Cathartic, I wrote. I don't even know why. I think just a whole week of WWE. It's made me feel so much better.
Well, you know what?
He's a producer there. He's responsible for some of this that we see.
Okay. The word cathartic is good. Wrestling should be that sometimes.
Yeah.
You live vicariously through the man on screen beating up somebody.
I lived vicariously
so you don't
Scott
beat
Steiner
up your
here.
boss or your neighbor or whatever.
Or Kidman.
Or Billy Kidman.
Yes, I've often wanted to beat a small man half to death.
Jeff Jarrett versus Conan.
May I run over this stupid match? Tigress hits the ring to attack Jarrett. Not a DQ. Douglas runs down, grabs Tigress. Not a DQ. Jarrett hits Tigress with a guitar. Not a DQ. Jarrett hits Conan with the stroke for the pin. Okay, everybody that wants us to watch Impact and TNA.
Right.
No.
Right.
I am not watching another decade of Jeff Jarrett matches. I will not. I'll quit first.
I want to just read my one sentence. I guess it's technically two sentences that I wrote about this match. Conan does an Assalanche, and now Tigress and Shane and Tori are out there, and Jarrett guitars Tigress and pins Conan with a stroke as shards of a guitar and an unconscious woman are in the ring. That was one sentence, and then my second sentence is just, Lord.
Okay.
Sting is watching this and is as disgusted as we are.
Before we get into the next segment here. So, when I was a kid, I loved Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Everyone did.
Yeah, just the best.
Does.
You know, Mr. Rogers, he'd put on his sweater, and then there would be the land of make-believe and a puppet show. Mm-hmm. And then Mr. Rogers would go somewhere.
Sure.
He'd go to the dairy farm, or he'd go to the post office, and he'd show you all of the machines and how everything worked. And one time, he even, and as a child, I didn't like this. This was blatant kayfabe breaking. He took us behind the scenes of the neighborhood of make-believe.
Oh, man.
Didn't like that. No buys. Anyway, I'm watching this show. They're in Australia.
It's time for a field trip.
It's just a bunch of stupid wrestling and stupid angles and stupid bleeped promos, bad booking, and just every stupid thing that you can hate about wrestling. And all of a sudden, in the middle of this show, Tony's like, let's go to footage of Kevin Nash visiting a local beer factory. Mm-hmm. A brewery. Excuse me?
Why not?
We go on a field trip to a brewery where they're just like brewing beer, and Nash is looking at all the machines going, cool.
On your markets.
And then they have some sort of Nash brew or something like that. And then we go back to Nash versus Sting in a lumberjack match where he's top heel again. What in God's name was this?
Well, an Australian beer company started marketing Big Sexy Brew with 4 X's so they could copyright it.
Wow.
They put his name and his picture on the label, and then he got a free plug here on this television show.
Cunning.
Now I want to correct one thing Brian said. This is not in the middle of the show.
At the end.
This is to build to the main event. So the main event is Sting versus Kevin Nash in a lumberjack match. Where, by the way, I will also, one other thing to credit the show, the very first thing Kevin Nash said in the show was he was hungover.
Yes.
Well, now we know why.
Sure.
It's been a whole day at the brewery the day before.
Fair.
So they start wrestling. Nash takes over from the get-go. Stevie notes that Sting must have been distracted. Maybe one of the yaks raised her skirt. So Sting does a dropkick. Kevin Nash does a tremendous bump over the top rope to the floor, where the Misfits in action and Mike Awesome, all of whom I thought were babyfaces, all put their boots to him. Terrible lumberjacks. They throw him in. The match
Who did you
continues.
think were baby faces?
Misfits in action and Mike Awesome.
They are.
Then why do they stomp this guy as soon as he got thrown outside? That's not how a lumberjack match is supposed to work.
Well, I mean, we got bigger problems, Vinny.
We might. So, much to my shock, Kevin Nash is actually still able to get into the Scorpion at this point. But
Did you even mention the ref bump in a lumberjack match?
I haven't gotten there yet. So
They haven't?
no, because first,
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Nash got pulled out of the Scorpion by the Thrillers. The match goes on for a while. Steiner runs in out of nowhere. He attacks Booker T. All the lumberjacks get in a giant fight, and conveniently they all brawl to the back. And then, yes, Brian, the referee gets bumped. A bunch of shit happens. I didn't bother writing any of it down. All I know is the ref is down. Nash is in the corner. Jarrett is on the stairs in the corner, hiding behind Nash.
Well, he's big.
He is big, sexy, after all. And Sting goes for the Stinger Splash when Jarrett pops up from behind Nash, like Michael Myers, with a guitar instead of a knife. And he breaks the guitar over Sting's head in midair, and Nash gets the pin.
Can we add that I'm pretty sure the ref was still unconscious when Jeff Jarrett was hiding?
Oh, yeah, the ref was barely conscious when he was counting the 3.
Well, that's the best part. So they do the guitar shot. Kevin Nash covers Sting. Charles Robinson groggily crawls over, and he goes, 1, 2. He stops. Sting just lays there, and Charles Robinson looks at him, and apparently realizes that was a finish. And so he hits the mat a third time 5 minutes later and rings the bell. Could they possibly have screwed anything more up on this show?
It was a bad show.
Well, it was a finish. I mean,
I'll be honest, I did not realize live how bad this was, because it's still much better than most Russo shows, but it's a very bad show.
This was a very bad show.
It's a very bad show.
Very bad. And it was mostly like the second half. The first half was just boring. The second half was monstrously bad. All right, you ready?
Let's get out of here.
The finishes on this show were...
Pin after interference. Submission after one dude goes through a table and another gets hit with a chair, but neither of those is the finish. DQ in a 3-on-1 intergender handicap match. Clean pin. Clean pin after a guy breaks his leg on a monkey flip. Pin in a world title match after 4 men and 2 women get involved. Clean pin. Clean submission. Pin after interference from a man and 2 women and a guitar. And in the main event, pin in a lumberjack match after a battle royal breaks out and one dude gets hit with a guitar.
Wasn't sure you were going to make it.
That
I was like Charles Robinson there.
That was fantastically awkward timing.
A little bit of dead air, and then we just keep going.
Just enough to make the joke, and once the joke was over, we went.
All right, everybody, we're done. All right. Let's get this horrible Nitro show over with.
God, I wrote a lot about this. WCW Monday Nitro, October 23rd of the year 2000.
Well, we got 45 minutes max.
We got a horrible recap of last week's show. The perfect event versus the heresies. So once again, we've established, at least it took to the end of this match, but Sean Stasiak is the one having a problem with the other natural-born thrillers. Chuck Palumbo, actually everyone in this match was a babyface, including the heresies, except Stasiak. Eventually... Stasiak's not paying attention. He won't tag in. Palumbo gets pinned with the H-bomb. So
who in God's name could possibly care about Sean Stasiak breaking away from the natural-born thrillers? Nash is on commentary. He's burying Stasiak. Tony Schiavone says, Nash, some dudes just need a pat on the back. What does Stasiak need? Kevin Nash says, 9mm to the temple. What?
A lot of gun references this week.
And they argue the whole time, and Nash is aghast, and they can't get along. And I was somewhat surprised that Nash allowed himself to be put in a storyline that made him look like such an incompetent geek. Then I realized he probably doesn't care.
That's the key.
Did you notice Nash's shirt?
Hey, yo, it's a Scott Hall shirt he's wearing here.
Yeah,
we'll
it's got a little olive in it, and it says Last Call Hall on the back. So
it's a shirt they actually had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They made money off of Scott Hall going to
his actual alcoholism.
Yes. That's classic.
All this happened. So Nash goes back to the commentary desk. He promises that Stasiak will learn tough love from the coach, and it's nothing you'll see on Vivid Video. Well, thank God.
Good.
It's nothing I want to see. All right, I wrote down all of Pamela Paulshock's questions on the show.
God.
It won't take long. Mike Sanders. Halloween Havoc is this Sunday, and you have the opportunity to be sole commissioner if you beat the cat in a kickboxing match.
A kickboxing match now?
Mm-hmm. Yes. That was her question, by the way, the statement. So
he tries it on Pamela. He vows to beat Shad at the pay-per-view, and he says, tonight, I will do a 3-round kickboxing exhibition. Do you know anything about sports?
I do.
Okay. A 3-round fight isn't you against 3 guys.
I know.
Show's so stupid. Why is Mike Sanders doing a kickboxing match with the Shat?
I don't know.
Yeah, isn't that kind of cat specialty?
Mean Gene interviews Booker T. Booker T talks about living on the road, living out of a suitcase, wondering why he does this, and then he hears the people and he remembers why. Scott Steiner is a great wrestler, but a terrible man. He will have the people on his side at the pay-per-view. Going to take care of business. Don't hate the play, I hate the game. Steiner interrupts.
Oh, my God. You know how people always talk about the Triple H Booker T feud? And they're just appalled at, like, the stuff that they did in that feud?
Yes.
Okay. Scott Steiner comes out here on national television. I don't even know if I want to read this, but let me repeat. This is what Scott Steiner said, okay? Scott Steiner said, I'm sick of listening to you talk all this jive. I don't understand a word you're saying. Scott Steiner says your mom's a whore. Scott Steiner says I need an Ebonics handbook to understand your ass. And then he talks about how Booker's champion because he's never faced Steiner.
You forgot where you said Booker T's mom was on welfare.
Oh, I thought the whore part was Maybe a little worse.
I get
be wrong.
I just get the details, get the whole picture. I just thought the irony of Scott Steiner saying, I can't understand somebody else's
That was funny
promos.
because later he did a promo right after this, actually, with Pamela. And I didn't understand a word he said.
So they get in a fight, and Jarrett gets involved, and Sting gets involved. The locker room empties. In the melee, Steiner's suddenly trading punches with Mike Awesome. And they go to break. They come back, and Pamela Paulshock says, Big Papa Pump. It looks like Mike Awesome is not waiting for Monday night. He wants a warm-up match tonight.
That's what she said.
What the hell is Monday night?
Well, I'm not sure, but the impression I got from watching this show is that Mike Awesome is getting a title match on Nitro next week against whoever wins at Halloween Havoc. Which, if that's the case, this is an even dumber show.
That's the best I can do. Yeah, here's what I wrote about Steiner's promo. Steiner is barely coherent comparing Awesome to a lamb going to slaughter.
Yeah.
It was much, much, much less coherent than any Booker T promo. So we get Mike Sanders' kickboxing duel.
3-round kickboxing exhibition.
He says at the pay-per-view, he quotes Bad Street USA. I don't know if Michael Hayes has just been fired or what. But he says, you'll find out what it means to be SOL, and you know what that means. Well, that makes no sense. So,
It's been their catchphrase for like 3 weeks now.
but you'll find out what it means, and you know what it means.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Right.
Well, you know what it means, but you're going to find out what it means.
That's stupid.
Scott Steiner can say, Vince, I'm going to beat your ass, okay? You know what that means. But you don't know what that means till he beats your ass.
Oh, I think I do.
You know what I'm saying?
Are you comparing Mike Sanders to Scott Steiner?
No, I'm just saying that's what he's trying to say here.
So,
It's the least of our problems.
Mike Sanders' 3 rounds are 3 one-minute rounds against each of the Young Dragons.
Yeah. Who, they explain, are all masters of the martial arts.
That's what they say. Mm-hmm. In actuality, none of them are. So this is 3 short wrestling matches where Mike Sanders is wearing headgear and boxing gloves. He has also gimmicked his boxing gloves with some sort of nasty fluid,
Ether, I guess.
rubbing alcohol, but when he rubs his boxing gloves in their eyes, they go blind and he punches them out. So he rubs the boxing gloves in, who went first? Jamie saw.
Jamie went first, and then Yang, and
Yes.
then Hayashi.
Yes. And then Hayashi jumps him, knocks the helmet off, but Sanders is still able to blind him and punch him out. Leia
Leia
Meow.
Meow gets in the ring, and she goes to kick him in the balls, and he reaches into his pants, and he pulls out the cup. Mm-hmm. And then she goes, oh no! I'm like, kick him in the balls again.
Right.
He took the cup out. You know what I'm saying? Instead, she just sits down in fear. Then he puts the stuff on his glove again.
Hey, you put the stuff on the cup.
And Miss Jones is out there. And even though whatever it is, if you put in someone's face, like they're just all woozy and unconscious, he points to Mrs. Jones and he holds up the cup full of the stuff and he goes, and he smells it, but it doesn't affect him.
What?
He is below average.
Well, I'm not. It's not that you smell it, Brian. You have to get it in your eyes. It's a blinding substance.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yes, that was made abundantly clear during this match. So,
Nothing was abundantly clear during this match, Vinny.
as the cat is confronting Miss Jones, or as Sanders is confronting Miss Jones, the cat zooms in from behind, hits his wacky spinning kick, crotch chops her a bunch, and leaves. All right, I will just read the last line of my notes here. I am appalled, in all caps, at how entertained I was by all this.
Well, what I wrote was, the segment absolutely sucked, because it did absolutely suck. But for whatever reason, when Shat hit the ring and kicked him, the place just went absolutely crazy. They went out of their minds for Shat kicking this guy. And so it was like, the hell do I know?
I wrote a total
worked.
waste of time.
It
All right,
got over.
3 very just wildly different opinions. Chronic comes out for a promo. They say they were hired, and when they say that, I presume they mean by the Natural Born Thrillers to face Goldberg or whatever, but
Sure.
they are the most unstoppable force in WCW, and they knew Goldberg's ego would not let him refuse a match, even against Chronic. But now this has gotten real personal. Goldberg can take his winning streak in his career and stick it.
Can't believe how much you wrote about this. It's a Chronic promo. An argument broke out, and then a match.
This does keep going
Against
for a
3
long
count.
time. So they announced that 3 Count hired them to protect them for tonight. 3 Count says, because we hired these guys to protect us, we'll get to perform a whole album, to which Brian Clark clarifies how many songs you're going to do, and when they say we're going to do them all, Clark says, you didn't pay us that much money, and the match starts. Chronic versus 3 Count. Brian Clark did the best meltdown of all time to Shannon Moore in this match. It was 20 seconds. They pinned Shane with the high times. Kevin Nash.
Oh, God.
What did you mean by Sean Stasiak and tough love?
Kevin Nash goes, Stasiak's going to get a second chance, a test. He says, it's real simple. And as soon as he said that, I just knew. These are famous last words. So this is Nash's plan, which is so simple, okay? He says, either Stasiak gets his head in the game, or he'll leave without it. What's going on? It's so simple, I don't even know what's going on now. Then he starts talking about Scott Hall. I was like, go away. Hall has received his walking papers. He says, the outsider gimmick isn't a work. It's on. The outsiders will write again. I'm like, you're being paid. They're paying this guy so much money to just make a mockery of all of this.
Yes. Yeah, he was so annoying on this show.
My favorite was when he quoted a line from Last Temptation of Christ, but he quoted Willem Dafoe instead of whichever biblical character it was.
Right.
MIA comes out.
Oh, God.
So
This. Okay.
They're mocking Team Canada, okay?
Are they?
This is straight out of WWE with terribly unfunny comedy.
This is
the
so much-
announcers have to fake laugh at
This
it.
is so much more unfunny than anything.
And
WWE.
then, in the highlight of the night, huge erection says, we just took your dignity.
Yeah.
False.
Huge erection said, we took your dignity
After
with
being
this skit.
out here for 10 minutes, getting not a single laugh the entire time.
Painful.
We took, like,
Painful.
that honestly took balls by huge erection to
Yes.
say with a straight face.
That's the point. His name is Huge Erection.
Corporal Cajun was dressed up as a moose, got a giant rack, so I'm guessing he was supposed to be Major Guns.
He at one point pointed out there's no one for him to imitate, so he was a random Canadian moose.
The moose has a rack, and so does Major Guns.
Yes, correct. She has large breasts.
So Pam is with Mike Awesome. Would you like to read her question?
I sure would. Mike Awesome, whatever you did earlier to Scott Steiner really ticked him off. And now he wants you in a match tonight.
Okay, so then Awesome does this bizarre promo.
I'll say.
This is where I'm pretty sure he said he gets a title shot next Monday. I'm almost positive. He admits that he took Pam on the Love Bus. She's appalled that he made this public, even though we've seen like at least 3 different segments where he was dragging her into the Love Bus. Now she's appalled that it's public. That was a segment.
Yeah. The Natural Born Thrillers come out. Nash is doing this promo.
About Scott Hall.
All about Scott Hall. Crowd's chanting Hall's name. Mark Madden says, guy gets a pop that big, he should be here. And Stevie Ray says, Madden.
Kevin Nash says, Hall and I, arguably, the greatest tag team of all time.
That was funny.
I'll argue that.
Every one of the announcers had to say, it's tough to argue that one. He's right. They're the best tag team. I'm like, dude, come on. The best tag team of all time.
Even if this was real. So,
I believe his point was, to be a team, you must be a team. And Stasiak is not part of the team.
what he said was,
And so he's going to go it alone tonight.
Hall and I showed what a team was. Shoot and work.
Get out of here, you idiot.
So yes, if you don't want to be part of this, you can do it alone. And as he says that, Goldberg's music hits.
So apparently Nash and Goldberg are in cahoots.
I guess.
Here we go with the cahoots again.
He kills Stasiak. They say he's 12-0. And earlier, I believe that Nash said if Stasiak didn't deliver, he was going to be beheaded.
He would
That
take
did
his
not
head.
happen.
That's not Thunder.
It's true.
Goldberg promises in 6 days he will drive both of Chronic's asses into the mat. It always took 2 of you to take out one of me, but at Havoc, you're both next. The Boogie Nights cut a promo.
Okay. Disco gets in the ring, okay? He has an announcement. We are going to get to the bottom of this, he says. We are going to find out who let the dogs out and where they are at. It is as silent in the building as it is here in this room when he says this line. And it was one of those things that was so painfully cringe that it was funny.
Yeah. I get it.
It was like, listen, I've been watching wrestling for a long time, and I just watched that MIA skit. I don't think I've ever seen something fall flatter than this joke by the Disco Inferno. And he just barreled on. You know what I'm saying?
It may not have been the first time one of his jokes fell flat.
I was impressed.
You keep going until it gets funny again.
It was so ballsy to try this, number one. In New Zealand, right? Weren't they in Australia?
No,
Where
back.
were they?
They're back.
Oh, they're back?
They're in Arkansas.
Okay, I saw koalas at the beginning of the show. I guess it was a recap from last week.
Yes.
Jiminy Christmas.
So there's a 3-way tag match at the pay-per-view. So they did a 3-way here with one guy from each team. Alex Wright versus Billy Kidman versus Mark Jindrak. It went 2 minutes. A big giant 6-way brawl breaks out, and Kidman pins Wright with the Kid Crusher, which is the kill switch.
Yeah.
And then the brawl breaks out, and the Filthy Animals clean house, and that was that.
Literally. I'm not making this up. Kidman pins Alex Wright, and Mark Madden says, none of this means anything.
Thanks, Mark.
That's what he told me.
Well, he's right.
I mean, he is right, but don't tell me that. That makes me want to turn the channel.
It does make this all seem like a waste of time. Crowbar. Now that you're Mike Awesome's tag team partner, the fans want to know, how's that working out for you? Which is like the closest thing she's gotten to an actual question yet. Crowbar says, I'm just over here polishing my staff. He and Mike Awesome are wearing out the shocks on the bus every week. There's always room for Pam on his bus. And Jimmy Hart runs up and tells Crowbar he is booked. And Crowbar thinks this means women. And he leaves.
And Pamela says, and I quote, the chicks are after him?
Pamela's so horrible.
It's like, you've been on the bus.
With Mike Awesome, though?
I mean, well, yeah, but he's on the bus too.
I guess so.
That was made abundantly clear.
Well, that's weird.
That's a big bus. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So Madden calls Pam a fine thespian.
Did anyone on the show not hit on Pam? I'm pretty sure every single person who was interviewed by Pam hit on her.
I'm sure they did. He does the Scott Hall toothpick thing, which pops Stevie Ray. We get like 3 minutes that is just videos hyping up the pay-per-view. I was blown away. They're trying to sell a pay-per-view.
Yeah, with a god-awful lineup.
They're doing their best.
No, they're not, Vinny. they're promoting something bad. I guess you could say that's doing. I mean, they're doing something.
They're doing this pay-per-view with the idea you will want to watch it.
They are promoting their pay-per-view.
Yes.
They are not doing their best.
Fair. So it's David Flair versus Buff Bagwell. Goldberg versus Chronic. I do like that Russo has disappeared from this show, but it is still his edict that if Goldberg loses, he is fired. They're sticking with that. Jeff Jarrett versus Sting, and Steiner versus Booker T. Crowbar versus Vampiro.
This was so bizarre.
That's exactly...
First, Vampiro takes literally like 2 minutes to walk down the ramp. I don't know what took him so long.
Well, clearly they had a lot of time to kill. Something must have gone very short.
So they start doing this match, and for the first few minutes, it's there. It's Crowbar, the 70s Crowbar, against Vampiro. I don't know why I'm watching it. They do this spot, which was the funniest thing I ever saw. Crowbar gives Vamp a clothesline. And when he hits him, Vampiro does not bump. He stands there. But then he turns in a complete 180, and then he falls down. I watched it like 10 times. I was like, what was this? So I'm just like, oh my God, they're brawling outside. I'm so bored. I don't know why no one's getting disqualified. I presume it's no DQ. And they keep wrestling, and they keep wrestling. And all of a sudden, it's like, good. Mm-hmm. And they're like beating each other's ass. They're working their asses off. The crowd is like super into it for some reason. They're doing all this crazy stuff. And finally, at the end, Vampiro gives him this big choke slam off the DJ Rand's thing through a table. The place just goes absolutely out of their mind. The referee stops the match. Tony Schiavone says, we've never seen anything like this. Okay? Which is a complete lie. But he was so into the match that the way he said it, I actually believe we'd never seen anything like this. He was so excited about this match. And by the end, I was like, that was really good. Am I wrong?
No, it's good.
It certainly was a spectacle, and there's no doubt they beat the hell out of each other. These men suffered damage in this match. There's no doubt about it.
The thing you have to think about, Vinny, is this was the year 2000, okay? Mm-hmm. So if you didn't buy a lot of pay-per-views and see, like, the TLC matches, and if you didn't get ECW on your television, like, this was a super crazy match, the likes of which you probably had never seen.
I did watch the pay-per-views and get the television. This was a super crazy match.
Yes, this was just amazing, actually.
So go ahead, Craig.
I was going to say two things. This is Vamp coming back from an injury. And also, Druids came out with the table
Yes.
Vamp to set up these double tables that Crowbar was going to go through.
Presume Vamp has Druids.
Apparently?
Because I don't think there were Druids in the 1970s.
Okay.
I'm just going to read...
I'm pretty sure there were Druids in the 70s. And probably a long time before that.
Definitely before that.
Yeah. He is a vampire.
I'm just going to read some of the things that were said on commentary during this match. Stevie Ray is frantically trying to find out the opening spot was Vampiro taking out nunchucks and beating Crowbar with him and not getting disqualified. And Stevie Ray says, "What are the rules, Tony? Sucker's gotta know." And Tony says, "Well, suckers gotta know, but sometimes suckers don't know." They keep going. They're fighting. Like 10 minutes in, Stevie Ray says, "To this point, Tony, we don't even understand why they're fighting each other." Then they get in the ring and start doing holds. And Mark Madden says, "This is too weird. 1 minute they're using stairs and guardrails. Now Crowbar is using back suplexes and splashes."
Yes.
They keep doing stuff. Stevie is beside himself. Why won't the referee? What are the rules in this match?
I don't know.
No one had any idea what was going on.
No, but they worked their asses off, and the crowd was into it.
It was
and
not
they popped big
boring.
at the end. Yes.
So Vampiro does a promo.
On the Nitro curve, this was 2 thumbs up.
Well, that's actually a fine point. Vampiro does a promo. All of this, he finally explains 20 minutes after it started, he explains what the point of all this is. This is all because of Mike Awesome. Crowbar's blood is on his hands. He shows video of the last time he was on Nitro, when Mike Awesome powerbombed him out of the ring through a table on the floor. And then he cuts a great promo on Mike Awesome, challenging him to a match at Halloween Havoc.
Yeah, and then he says, after all that, he goes, "Be there or be square."
I missed that part.
Hey.
What?
I thought it was a good promo. I thought it was the best segment on the show. It was the only thing that felt like it wasn't a waste of my time. I liked it.
It was good.
Speaking of waste of time,
Yes.
Conan comes out and does every Conan promo you ever heard. Shane Douglas comes out with his arm in a sling. And Stevie says he's hurt very badly, Tony. Or maybe Mark, but somebody says he's hurt very badly, and somebody else says, again. Madden says Shane has broken every bone in his arm and had them surgically removed. Mm-hmm. That sounds serious. So Shane and his one arm and Conan cut a promo back and forth on each other forever.
I could have sworn that Conan didn't believe he was hurt, and then finally, after daring him to fight, he admits, "I talked to the trainer, and I know you're hurt."
Yes.
And so he was gonna let Shane not wrestle. But then Shane tries to attack him with his cast.
Yes.
And so they have a match.
For a while. Did you mention where Conan offered to give Tori a facial?
I did not mention that.
Happened.
That was in there.
And this was a shoot, brother, because Shane kept calling
Carlos.
Conan Carlos.
Let's get serious, Carlos. Everything about this sucked.
Man.
So it's one-armed Shane Douglas versus Conan in the year 2000. Oh, by the way, even though they're doing this match, apparently they're still doing the match at Halloween Havoc, so the broken arm is going to heal in 6 days. Match is Not very good, of course.
No.
Conan locks the arm in a cast, in a wacky lucha submission, and Shane Douglas, the foul-mouthed bastard, he won't quit. He's too proud and too brave and a hero. He's just crying out Tori's name. Eventually, he gets a chain somehow, hits Conan a couple times, hits a franchiser. Well, this was awful, I wrote, as Shane won. And then, because it's not enough, Tigers goes after Tori. This was a horrible segment.
I'll say. And boy, Conan facing a guy with one arm gets beat.
Yeah.
What a geek.
Yeah.
What a geek.
Right before the main event, Tony Schiavone, who of course had spent time in the World Wrestling Federation, notes the passing of Yokozuna and best wishes to the family. So our TV main event is Mike Awesome versus Scott Steiner. And at some point, somewhere, Scott Steiner got an idea. You know what would be cool, he says to himself. What if I came down the ramp on a totally random Nitro with a goddamn tiger? So the Scott Steiner and Medeja and a couple of tiger handlers and a fucking tiger.
Cool.
And the tiger comes out and the tiger sees all those people and all these lights. Tiger says, fuck this. And the tiger tries to get backstage. And Scott Steiner and the tiger handlers are trying to power him back on.
I know Cody got some heat recently for bringing a dog out with a bunch of pyro. There was a tiger in the aisleway, and there was pyro going off.
My wife and I just watched a special on Siegfried and Roy.
Oh my!
And all I could think was, these are all so lucky that this tiger didn't maul anybody.
Can you imagine if he went on a rampage and just jumped in amongst the fans?
Dude, this is Nitro. Anything could have happened.
Absolutely.
There's no limit. Until that tiger was full. That's when it would have stopped. So, thank God they were able to maintain the tiger's composure, get it down just to the end of the ramp, and then get the hell backstage, back into his cage. Steiner, now he must cut a promo. He's going to beat Booker Havoc. So, for the most part, Steiner and Austin had a fun little TV match. I guess there are just no rules in WCW anymore, because Medeja just gets in the ring and starts kicking Austin right in front of the ref. She grabs his boot at one point.
She not only kicked him, she kicked him over the top rope.
Yes. Yeah.
What?
So, Awesome is going for the running powerbomb out of the corner. Medeja grabs his foot. This distracts both Awesome and the ref. Steiner hits a pipe shot, hits the avalanche angle slam, and Awesome does kick out of that, but then he puts him in the Steiner recliner, and Awesome is done, and the show abruptly goes off the air.
Okay, so I'm still not sure if Mike Awesome is getting a championship match next Monday.
Don't know.
I don't care enough to check. That's like the key. But if that's the case, boy, can you imagine? Mike Awesome's getting a title shot next Monday. Let's beat him the prior Monday via submission.
Of course.
This show is horrible. It's like a different kind of horrible from the Russo shows.
It's a much more tolerable level of horribleness.
It's more tolerable, but it's still horrible. It's like we went from really horrible and nonsensical and stupid to just horrible and nonsensical and stupid. But not really. You know what I mean?
I do not get angry at these shows. I say, well, whatever. I shut down my computer and move on with my life.
I just get bored.
Yeah, I was always miserable on the Russo shows.
Well, let's do this finishes report.
And get out of here. The finishes on this show were: clean pin when a guy walks out in his partner. 3 knockouts with use of a foreign substance in a kickboxing exhibition. Clean pin in a 2-on-3 handicap match. Clean pin. Clean pin in a 3-way. Ref stoppage after chairs and stairs and guardrails and tables were used in what I guess was a Falls Count Anywhere street fight where you can still win by TKO. Pin after a one-armed man hit a guy with a chain a few times. And in the main event, submission after pipe shot.
Well, there you go, everybody. That's Retro Raw Nitro from 19 years ago this week.
We are at war.
I think it was that far
I don't think he's that old. I think I was confused. And I've lost my notes for Nitro, but it was, Brian, October 30th of the year 2000.
Yes, Nitro, October 30th of the year 2000. An update on the WWE Network. I still cannot skip forward or back without losing audio.
That sucks.
My network was totally down this weekend.
Wow.
I couldn't watch it for a couple hours.
Well, when it's down but no one else's is down, that's usually on your end.
Lance's was down as well.
It's Canada. This right here, I've had multiple people tell me this skipping thing is an issue on multiple platforms.
So this show opened, and I know we say this like every month, the night after a WCW pay-per-view. This had to have been the worst recap of a pay-per-view ever.
Yeah.
Well, it was one of the worst pay-per-views ever.
Well, that may be fair. It felt like a preview more than a recap. They just said what the matches were with no indications of what happened at all.
The matches were booked because of what happened at the pay-per-view, basically. It was stupid and convoluted. It was dumb.
But tell me what happened on the pay-per-view then.
Fair.
That's my point.
That's fair.
So here is how this recap ends.
We kind of heard some things throughout the show.
Goldberg is shown like entering the ring to fight Chronic. They're not even on the screen together. And Tony Schiavone screams, "Could this be our last standing hero in WCW?" And then like immediately, like the same sentence, he screams, "Good night from Las Vegas." I was so bewildered.
It was that quick.
So there's a new CEO. And he spends the vast majority of the show hiding in his limousine. A limousine arrives and just sits there.
Well, they did tell us right when the new CEO, yes. Sanders is the new commissioner. Mm-hmm. He beat the Shat.
Yes.
For some reason, we have a CEO and a commissioner.
And they were actually talking at one point about how there's been too many commissioners and CEOs and general managers. And the first thing to do is say, we have a CEO and a commissioner. Mark Jindrak and Sean O'Hare versus the Filthy Animals. So, at the pay-per-view, there was a three-way match involving these two teams. Jindrak and O'Hare entered as champions. They won. And the reward is they had to defend their titles against this team again 24 hours later.
All I know is they had Conan on commentary.
Oh, boy, did they.
And, listen, Conan was really funny, but at the same time, he just buried Jindrak and O'Hare.
He sure did.
And I thought, you know what? Jindrak and O'Hare are going to win. And boy, are these filthy animals going to look like absolute geeks.
And out of all the guys in WCW, these guys deserve it the least. These guys are good.
All he does is talk about how they suck and they're green. And he buries, I believe O'Hare is one of them. Says, I read an article where he said when he was a kid, they'd have sleepovers on Friday and Saturday and wrestle in their bedrooms. Wonder what they were doing there. I'm like, dude, God forbid kids have fun. That was the first thing I thought. Then the second part, I'm just like, what? And he talks about how they suck and they're terrible and they're horrible.
A bunch of salad tossers, he called them.
Then they win.
Now, I will say two things, Brian. I will say two things. One, there was a point late in the match where one of them turned to scream at Conan for a bit, and Conan says, see, I'm getting in their head. All this trash I'm talking, it's just a mess. They're really very impressive.
How do they hear it?
He's a loud
very
guy.
loud guy, actually, and he's right there.
I've heard Mauro Ranallo.
So he tried, Brian, to your point, he tried to explain that he wasn't really burying them. He
probably figured out halfway through the match.
Now, as soon as he said that, Jindrak did some move, and the announcer said, he calls that the MJ Delight. And Conan says, who's MJ? And they say, Mark Jindrak. Conan says, oh, that's brutal. Now listen.
Hey, listen. It's okay to bury, they come up with a stupid name for their move. There's a million things that you can bury Jindrak and O'Hare for. Haircuts, gear, whatever you want. But he buried them as wrestlers.
Yes.
In a match where they were going to beat his team.
It did happen. Oh, there's something else about this I was going to say, and I forget what it was now. But
the dancing dildos.
I have been told that annoying loudmouths burying pro wrestlers can be very profitable and enjoyable.
I see.
So, hey, I was down with Conan here. Eventually, yes.
You idiot.
Boogie Knights interfere. They hit a chart buster on Kidman, and Jindrak gets the win.
Yes.
And yes, the match was very good. I think that's the other key, is that Jindrak and O'Hare looked so good that by burying them, Conan was really burying himself. And when he says they suck, and you see some of the shit they pulled in this match, clearly they do not suck. Mm-hmm. Mike Sanders and Kevin Nash are having a chat backstage. Scott Steiner walks up and says, hey, Kevin, and then just puts his elbow in Sanders' throat. Because Sanders is the commissioner. Steiner somehow beat up Booker T, but is not champion now.
It was disqualified.
I see.
They never told us that on the show.
No. He wants a title shot against Nash. Suggests he gets what he wants. Sanders agrees, and after Scott leaves, Nash warns Sanders that as commissioner, he's going to have a lot of people in his face. He needs to pick his battles, implying just give Scott Steiner whatever he wants. A hardcore title match
God.
between Kwee Wee and Reno.
Okay, so Kwee Wee is covered in glitter.
I've never seen this with glitter in my life.
It's like he showered in it.
And I've seen some glitter.
He's covered head to toe in glitter, and he cuts his preposterous promo before the match.
What he says, Brian. Don't make me angry. You've already made me angry.
Yes.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
He said, you rolled the dice on Paisley. That's unforgivable. Come roll the dice on me, and I'll roll you like I used to do with the power plant. That was at least good. The second half was better than most promos today. The first half was ridiculous.
So they had a hardcore match, which, did we mention we're sick of hardcore matches yet?
It sucks.
There was a really, really awesome bit where Kwee Wee did a running springboard sunset flip off the guardrail on the floor. That was really awesome. Otherwise, it's every hardcore match you ever saw. They fight up to the stage where the Natural Born Thrillers attack, and the Giants hit the big flying double Beal into the ring from the floor, and Reno hits the roll of the dice onto a trash can and wins.
This Reno cat, he's missing something.
Missing a lot.
Yeah, it was being nice, Vince.
I'm sure he's a tough dude.
Sure.
As exciting television characters go, he's not there.
No.
So Mean Gene brings out Hugh G. Rection.
The new U.S. champion.
At the pay-per-view, he defeated the team of Lance Storm and Jim Duggan to win the U.S. title.
By pinning.
Madden is sure to point out, yeah, but he pinned Duggan. He didn't pin Lance Storm.
Well, that's the storyline.
It's the storyline, but also the storyline is having a 2-on-1 advantage hurts you. Because one guy's vulnerable. It's a stupid thing, is my point.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was fine.
So, General Erection comes
It wasn't
out.
that the other guy was substandard. It was that one guy is the champion and one guy isn't. Like, the other guy can be great, but the point is, you didn't pin the champion to get the belt.
Right.
That's all he's saying. He's not saying, like, Duggan totally sucks. He pinned the guy that was horrible.
So
That's not what Vinny's saying.
My point is, if you're saying that he would not have beat the champion if not for Duggan, or he wouldn't
No,
have
that's
won
not
the
what he
match.
said. He was just pointing out that he didn't pin the champ to win the belt.
Right, but since he beat up two guys, Brian, including the champion and his friend, I'm going to go ahead and assume he could kick the champion's ass.
Whatever. There's a point to this.
It's not worth anything
storyline
about that I agree with. So they play the network version of the AMI theme, which is horrible. When General Rection comes out by himself, then he brings out the rest of the crew, and they didn't censor that one out. So if you ever wanted to hear the Misfits in Action theme, it's on this show.
They just must have missed it, I guess.
And weren't they paying attention? So he yanks the Canadian sticker off the U.S. belt. And then Hugh G. Rection talks about how great it was to have his little girls watching him wrestle.
Dude, Erection does his victory speech. I could retire tomorrow with a smile on my face. Gene says...
There's a joke there somewhere.
Mean Gene says... Erection... I want you to know how much you're appreciated by everyone in World Championship Wrestling. When Gene said that, I was like, what is going on here? And then Gene goes...
And then it got silly.
He goes, come on, everybody. And in the background, you hear... Nobody's clapping. And Gene's trying so hard. Come on, everybody. Let's hear it for Erection. And then all of the geeks come out on the ramp. These geeks come out on the ramp. Like everybody in the... Yes.
Rection cut a promo saying he did this for the Conans, the Mysterios, the Kidmans, and all the other C-Team players.
Wow.
At which point, Conan, Mysterio, and Kidman came out, and Madden points out, look, they're admitting they're C-Team players.
All these geeks come out on the ramp. They all start clapping. They're clapping louder than the people in the building.
Tony is so joyful to see all these people. Look, there's Arn Anderson. There's Billy Banks.
Yeah.
What the hell?
So then out comes Bill Goldberg to get the big pop, put the guy over. And he says, Hugh Morris, he refuses to call him
He will
Erection.
not call him Hugh Direction.
Sure.
Hugh Morris, don't you ever think that anything you've done for this company has been in vain. I'm howling with laughter. Like, Goldberg knows every goddamn thing he's done for the last year has been in vain. He tells Hugh Morris, I respect you, the boys respect you, everybody in the back respects you. Hey, my streak had to start somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm like, is he a heel?
He thanked
That was the most backhanded. I was just gobsmacked.
Thank you, Morris, for losing to me and letting me kick your ass.
Then Lance appears on the big screen. You just hear, Rection! Rection! It's Lance Storm.
He's not wrong.
Screaming Rection over the deal. He says, yeah, you got the girl, you got the gold, but you didn't get what you really wanted, and that was to beat me. Therefore, I will give you the chance to beat me, but you must put the belt on the line. And Erection says, I already signed the match. It is 1-on-1 for the belt at WCW Mayhem, which I think does one of the lowest buy rates in the history of professional wrestling. Actually, I can't even say that. There's many pay-per-views today doing much worse than Mayhem.
Oh.
But at the time, this was terrible. Hey, listen, they tried.
I swear to God, that's what I wrote. They tried.
They tried really hard.
They did their best to make Hugh Morris a big deal.
But
here.
nobody was in the building. It was like an empty building. Nobody cared. It was comedy.
The CEO's limousine is still just parked there.
Oh, God. David Flair comes down to the ring, and he's got papers. Okay? So for those of you that don't remember, because we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, he and Buff Bagwell had a DNA match at the pay-per-view.
Right.
David managed to coax some DNA out of Buff Bagwell. He brought it to wherever they examined this DNA, and they gave him the results of the paternity test. I'm supposed to believe that this dumb shit didn't read the papers before he got into the ring.
They mentioned this.
He comes into the ring, and he opens it, and he says, it says there's a 99.8% chance that Buff Bagwell is not the father? I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? I know he's a heel, but this is so dumb. Then M.I. Smooth comes out. M.I. Smooth says, I got a bone to pick with you, David. Bagwell's mad at me, so I'm mad at you. He says, I never said that Bagwell was the father. I just said, I got a videotape, and if you watch it, you'll know who the father is. Which, actually, I believe is what he said. But the announcers are insistent that he actually said that Bagwell was the father. They're going against, like, nobody has any idea what's going on. And you know who else doesn't have any idea what's going on? Me. Because M.I. Smooth that gets in the ring with David Flair, and he beats the shit out of him and pins him.
Yeah.
M.I. Smooth, I'm not sure has had a match since Chris Benoit beat the shit out of him in like 1995.
When he
Am
was
I wrong?
Ice Train, yes.
What is going on this
It's been
show?
years. Well, you wanted-
My no swearing rule broken again by this stupid segment.
You want to get a guy over, you haven't winning his debut. I got nothing to add. Jimmy Hart does a promo where he explains he has a new hobby. It's wrestling radio DJs, male or female, on Nitro. Basically challenges everyone who works in radio around the country. It reminds us all he's the man who knocked out Andy Kaufman. Which I don't think he was.
I don't remember
Could have
that.
sworn it was Jerry Lawler.
That's why I remember, yeah.
Clips of Jerry Lawler that I've seen. The Boogie Nights do a promo where they tell us they don't know why they're here, but they've been sent out there by Mike Sanders.
Right.
Then Bill Goldberg's music hits and they freak out. So I think, okay, no one likes the Boogie Nights. I can buy that. So Mike Sanders needed somebody to face Goldberg. He booked them against Goldberg. Fine. Then Goldberg comes out. He tells them they're taking up his time, and they leave. What happened here?
Dude, I never know what's going on.
So, I guess Goldberg beat Chronic last night. No one ever actually said this. He vows to beat his record. He tells all the boys in the back they're all next. This whole segment did nothing. So here's the idea for this next shot. They need a 5-second shot that shows a door opening. We'll see a man in a suit walking down the legs of a man in a suit walking down the hallway, and then we'll reveal who the new CEO is in the next segment. Mm-hmm. But it's WCW. They can't accomplish this simple task, and Ric Flair opens the door. The camera's looking up at Ric Flair's face and Ric Flair's shocking gold platinum hair, and then it pans down.
Well, Vinny, do you know how hard it is to do a pre-tape?
Apparently, it's incredibly difficult. I would say, Brian, it's impossible.
It is impossible.
It cannot be done.
Dude, they can't even do pre-tapes nowadays. Like on Raw and SmackDown.
You know what? I'm not going to let this being live as an excuse.
No, of course not. It's ridiculous. My point is they could have pre-taped this, or they could have just
pre-taping would have helped.
Film the ground.
But I could give your children an iPhone and say, don't shoot Daddy's face, and they pull it off.
Yes.
Not in WCW.
It's rampant incompetence.
There was a Bruno Mully joke in here as well.
What was it?
Well, Flair was wearing Bruno Mully's, and that's what OJ was wearing.
I see.
Yeah.
So Sanders comes out for a promo. He brags about beating the Cat. He books Booker T versus Scott Steiner versus Mike Awesome in a 3-way tonight. It was going to be Awesome versus Booker. He has added Scott Steiner to the match because Scott Steiner was going to kill him if he did not. He tries to intimidate the new CEO without knowing who it is, and then, of course, Flair comes out. Now, Sanders debuted 2 or 3 months ago, and I was very much not a fan of his opening promo. Since then, he's been much better. He's been a perfectly fine part of the show. But, boy, when he's in there with Ric Flair... and this is not Mike Sanders' fault. It's Ric Flair. This is a steep hill to climb. And
it's not even that it's just Ric Flair. It's a Ric Flair that doesn't care anymore.
So he's free to...
He's just like, whatever.
And Flair's doing his best to put Sanders over. Talking about how, I've been at home watching you. I've been impressed. You got the gift of gab. You're a good hand in the ring. He's trying so hard, but it's like...
Actually, he said you're a pretty fair hand.
Even better.
I laughed so hard at that line.
Even better. But God, Sanders was blown away in the spotlight here. So eventually he says, you and your friends are going to have to start wrestling by your rules. I'm starting by booking you in a rematch against the Cat. He dismisses Sanders, who leaves to go prepare for his match. Flair is given a state of the company address. He says, we got a lot of talent in this company, but we got a lot of problems. Because everyone who takes over in WCW has to mention the company sucks. He's here to make it the company number one again. Now, when my friend Lex Luger heard I was going to be CEO, he came to me and I asked him to look after David. And Luger took it too far. So Buff Bagwell, I owe you an apology. So I assume Luger interfered in that DNA match and got Buff's blood everywhere. But he's going to keep his word to Lex. This company will be run like a business, right or wrong.
All right, I love Ric Flair, but by this point, I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And he didn't explain it. He didn't explain the Luger thing. Luger had to come out and explain it for him. And then Jeff Jarrett comes out, and I just... it didn't even lead to anything. Jeff came out and threatened to take out Flair. Flair said, I'm retired. You're a great wrestler, but I'm the boss. This went back and forth for like 5 more minutes, and then it was just over.
Yes.
What was the point of that?
Don't know.
Besides to just drag this thing out for an hour.
I did like when Jarrett called himself the Chosen One, and Flair said, you're only the Chosen One when you're in a room full of girls. Is that an insult?
I was going to say.
No, that's not.
Because I'm pretty sure Flair's been in a room full of girls more than once. Yes, and then I wrote, this goes on a while, I don't think anything gets established.
So this just went on way too long. As much as I love Flair, it just went on way too long. And then Luger comes out, and now he's going to talk for an hour. And he rambles on, and basically he said... Did anybody remember that Luger was like fired or suspended or something like that? I don't even remember. He basically says that he helped David, so Flair reinstated him and he's back.
The last time we saw Luger, he was helping Vince Russo in a cage match.
That's right.
No one mentioned that.
So then Bagwell comes out and cuts his terrible promo. It was so horrible. He managed to get out that he wanted to wrestle Lex, and Lex says, well, I can make arrangements. I'll get my gear. We'll do it later. Buff says, I got a referee right now. These two guys do a match in their street clothes.
Mm-hmm.
They go 10 seconds.
I was going to say, if you
They
want
go
to call
10 seconds, and there's a ref bump. Luger then, and by the way, the ref bump is, within 10 seconds of this match starting, Bagwell tries a blockbuster, but he hits the referee with the blockbuster. You know, I was talking about how stupid ref bumps are and they're preposterous?
Yes.
Well, that's one right here.
He accidentally blockbustered this man.
Yes, so he accidentally blockbusters the referee. The ref is down. They end up outside the ring, and Luger just beats him, throws him in the ring, racks him for the submission. I was like, what was the point of that ref bump? Did someone convince Buff that you're doing a job, but we're going to give you an out, the ref's going to take a bump? Was that what they tried to convince this guy?
I guess.
Because he looked like as big a geek as ever, with the ref got bumped because of him, and he still got beaten and submitted.
What was up with Luger? His big, huge bags under his eyes. His hair was all disheveled. He didn't look good.
He's aging.
I see.
Rapidly.
So, yeah. And then Lex called out Goldberg before and after the match. So, Pamela's interviewing Nash, Palumbo, and Stasiak.
This thing.
Palumbo and Stasiak are magically back together again. Nash says they will be a well-oiled machine. Stasiak apologizes for losing his head last week. And then, frankly, it's just everyone spanks each other.
Nash got Pamela to smack his ass.
She didn't want to do it.
She did not
And
want to
she
do
did
this. She very reluctantly. This one, don't do this, everyone. This is unprofessional behavior.
Yes.
It was funny, though. She was fine with Stasiak. But then Nash, not so much.
That's what happened. That's how it went down.
These thrillers, oh my God. Thrillers versus Chronic with Nash doing commentary. It's Stasiak and Palumbo.
The perfect event.
Okay, whatever their name is. First off, the fans chant, "We want Scott Hall."
And given the options in the ring, I cannot blame them.
Sure.
Okay, so the match sucked. How could it not? It's the Thrillers versus Chronic. And Nash is on commentary, and he's making a mockery of everything.
Yes.
Stasiak walks out on Palumbo, who's making his own comeback, and Nash is only mildly concerned that he has walked out. They're like, didn't he say that he was back together with you guys? And as nonchalantly as possible, Nash says, he's schizophrenic. He's on medication. Just keeps watching the match.
He gave zero shits.
So then he just kind of says, he's no longer a thriller. And then Palumbo's making his own one-man comeback, but he gets cut off by Chronic. They hit the high times. Nash goes, and I'll leave a mark. So that's exactly what happened. The segment ends.
You got paid for this.
I'm like, I can't believe what I'm watching. They go to commercial, and they come back, and now Nash is going after Stasiak with a baseball bat backstage. I'm like, now you're mad? You sure weren't mad doing commentary on that match. You made a mockery of it. And trust me, Chronic versus the Thrillers did not need somebody to make a mockery of it.
It's actually, if anything, worse than all this. Because the key is that Chronic was beating up Stasiak on the floor right in front of the announce desk. And Nash told Stasiak to walk it off.
Right. Because he's the coach.
And Stasiak says, I'll walk it off. And he leaves. So he didn't just walk out of the match. He walked out on Nash. And Nash didn't care at the time.
No.
So as the Thrillers go to hunt for Stasiak, their old leader, Mike Sanders, is left alone. He has no backup for his match. Pam interviews Booker about facing Steiner and Awesome tonight. He says, Mike Awesome earned this title shot fair and square. Steiner bullies his way into this, but that's fine. Awesome wants to kill you as bad as I do. Don't hate the play, I hate the game. Mike Sanders versus Cat. First, the Cat has to cut a promo on how Mark Madden is fat and seeing him in the shower is gross. Has nothing to do with anything. You had to get that in there. Sanders tries to talk his way out of the match and says, I hope, Cat, that after my win last night, you are simply here to congratulate me. And he holds out his hand. And the Cat says, You stupid son of a bitch, I came in here to kick your ass. And he beats him up. I laughed so hard at that. So Steiner's got gear, which is an improvement, but did not help him here. Cat hits the feliner and pins him.
So after this match is over, okay, there's nobody that hates and has ranted about man-on-woman violence more than me, okay? But, dude, Douglas appears on the big screen. I don't even know where he is. He's got no shirt on. He's in a boiler room or something. And he explains to Shat,
It's hot down there.
look who I've got with me. It's Miss Jones. So he's standing there, and Miss Jones is standing next to him, and he's doing his promo. And Miss Jones hauls off and she slaps him. And Shane Douglas says, "You bitch!" And he grabs her and he gives her a side backbreak over his leg. I laughed. It was so ridiculous. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
It was a parody of a parody. It was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. It's like, first off, where are you? Why don't you have a shirt on? Why are you with her?
Why is she slapping you?
And your
You
reaction is to grab her and give her a side backbreaker over your knee?
They're just standing there. She's not chained up.
No.
She can leave at any time. And he didn't say any, he didn't insult her. He didn't threaten her. All he said was, "Look who's standing next to me." And then she hauls off and slaps him. And he is so angry that he must perform a wrestling hold.
It was like something that you would see on a show making fun of professional
Yes,
wrestling.
absolutely. Yes.
I was waiting for a laugh track. It was like so many universes beyond stupid that I'm sitting there laughing. Like tears are coming out of my eyes. I feel like such an asshole for laughing at this guy beating up this woman, but it was so ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
So it gets more ridiculous.
It would be like if she slapped him, he goes, "You bitch," and he hit a mallet on the ground, and it sent her on a spring, like, up and it was so beyond anything.
Well, what actually happened, he gives her a side backbreaker. He did this because, of course, they're not in a ring, so he can place her down on his knee and drop her half a foot to the floor and she'll be okay. But she, of course, sells it like death. The Cat runs backstage. They go to break. Now, of course, it's the network, so there's like a 3-second pause before the screen comes back from blackness. But imagine it's the year 2000 and you're watching this live on the comfort of your couch and you're watching commercials for laundry soap and bread and whatever else is on Turner Network television at the time. 5 minutes pass. The screen comes back up. Miss Jones has not moved. She was left dead.
Paralyzed.
By this backbreaker. And no one tended to her. The Cat runs in.
Hadn't thought of that.
Takes her, sits her right up, this paralyzed woman, tells her to straighten her legs. He's very concerned. He's screaming for help. But then as soon as one person gets there to help, he lets go. He looks right into the camera and says, "Douglas, I'm going to take care of you and your floozy because I'm the greatest." And he leaves.
So ridiculous. It's one of the goofiest things I've ever seen in my life.
It's very strange. Pamela interviews Mike Awesome. Someone finally had the bright idea to take that 70s guy whose gimmick is that he loves 70s culture and fashion and music.
Right.
And they play 70s music during his promos.
Crazy.
Simple. So they explain that in Australia, at some point, Mike Awesome won this title shot. They never say who he beat or how he did it to win, but he won this thing. But bring Steiner on, he says. It's triple threat rules. And he explains it's going to be 2 of us versus 1 of you. Great baby faces. Then I will take out Booker T, and I'll win the title. So the main event 3-way, Steiner versus Booker T versus Mike Awesome.
And by the way, they finally got the bright idea to put Awesome back in his wrestling gear.
That also helped. He did wrestle in trunks and boots and knee pads, yes.
His promo, though, with
but not
the
for a
stupid
while.
music in the background. Yeah. It was like he was actually doing drugs for this promo. When I watched it,
There's no drugs in wrestling, Brian.
like, if you would have told me, well, you know, he wanted to live the gimmick. That's why we got this promo. I'd have believed that.
So Steiner does a promo where he explains, I'm paraphrasing, but this is what he said. He does not need the world title to legitimize him. because he has big arms.
Sure.
His claim.
Right.
So
Well, and he beats up Booker every day, so.
that's also true. He beat him up here. Booker comes out. Awesome jumps him. They have a one-on-one match for like 5 minutes. And finally, they play Awesome's music, and he runs down. Now, the good news is, when he gets there, it's not what he said.
I just love that. The match starts and he's not there. And so the announcers spend minutes coming up with every possible theory about where he might be.
Put his gear on.
And then finally, he just runs down and starts the match. He was just late.
Yeah. He overslept.
All right.
So the good news is they did not do what Awesome said. It was not two men beating up Steiner for several minutes. It was just a three-way, which they called everything in the ring. And for a while, it was pretty good. Everyone had a right sense of when to do stuff, when to cut each other off, and when to feed a guy. And it did go a little long, got a little clunky by the end. But the finish made sense. Steiner was running wild, laid out Booker, threw him out of the ring, laid out Awesome, put him in the Steiner recliner. But then Booker kicked Steiner in the head. Steiner falls out of the ring. And as Awesome gets to his feet, Booker hits the bookend and pins him. Fine. It's a fine TV main event.
They've screwed Steiner multiple times. Even though he's the heel.
Yes. Well, that's also
They're
true.
building to the heel getting his big win, his triumphant win.
That is what's happening.
Yeah.
So, you would think what would happen is that Steiner would attack the good guys and then security would pull him off. That's not what happens. Steiner is outside on the floor, mad that he has lost this match without being beaten, and then security just attacks him. He's just minding his own business, and they run down and
It was
attack him.
baffling. I couldn't, why is security out there? He's just standing there.
I don't know.
He hadn't attacked anybody or nothing.
So I think it went a little. The match was a little short because Booker had to kill some time with a promo. Says we can do this in the back, we can do it in the street, but I'm going to give the people what they want to see. And Steiner comes out, and the show fades to black.
That was the show, everybody. You ready, Vinny?
Yes, this will be short.
Really?
The finishes on this show were pin after interference, pin after ample interference in a hardcore match, clean pin, submission after a bunch of chair shots, pin in a tag match when one guy abandons his partner, clean pin, and clean pin in a three-way.
Hey! And some dude gave a girl a backbreaker.
Not technically a finish. There's no
Yes,
match
it's
there.
not a finish.
Well, it was finished for her.
All right, everybody. That is the show.